The stinging winter wind bit through Eleanor. Sinclair's designer coat, as she stood silently at her estranged daughter's doorstep. A manila envelope clutched in her trembling hand. Through the frosted window, she could see her grandchildren, 3 children she'd never met, huddled around a space heater in a living room that was falling apart, while her son-in-law Tom muttered bitterly about that rich woman who'd bought their mortgage without their knowledge. Eleanor swallowed hard, the weight of 10 years of absence crushing her chest, wondering if this desperate attempt to reconnect would only deepen the wounds she'd created when she chose her empire over her family after her husband's death. What would happen when they discovered the truth behind the mysterious benefactor who'd been quietly saving their home all these months? If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe to our channel, and share your own experiences with forgiveness and second chances in the comments below. Eleanor adjusted the Hermes scarf around her neck as her driver navigated through the financial district's gleaming towers, several of which bore the Sinclair logo. From her window, the city looked like a chessboard, and she had mastered every move. "Miss Sinclair, we've received the quarterly reports from Singapore," her assistant Ruth said, not looking up from her tablet. "They're exceeding projections by 17%, Eleanor nodded absently. Another victory? Another meaningless number. Her penthouse office occupied the entire top floor of Sinclair Tower, floor to ceiling. Windows offered a panoramic view of the city she'd conquered, but her gaze drifted to the small silver frame on her desk, the only personal item in the sterile space. Robert's smile, frozen in time. 15 years gone. "What would you think of me now?" she whispered to the photograph. The day Robert died, something in Eleanor had broken. Instead of holding her teenage daughter close, she had retreated into work, building walls of spreadsheets and acquisitions between herself and her grief. Olivia had needed her mother. Eleanor had given her wealth instead. "Your 3 o'clock with the board is in 5 minutes, Ruth reminded her. "Cancel it." Ruth looked up, startled. In 20 years, Eleanor had never canceled a board meeting. "I need to review some personal matters." Alone, Eleanor unlocked the bottom drawer of her desk. Inside lay a small stack of unopened birthday cards she'd purchased for Olivia over the years, but never sent. Below them, newspaper clippings. Olivia's college graduation, her marriage announcement to Thomas Peterson. Eleanor had not been invited to either event. The last explosive argument replayed in her mind. Olivia at 19, bags packed, tears streaming down her face. "You weren't the only one who lost him," Olivia had screamed. "I lost Dad in you. I've given you everything." Eleanor had responded coldly. "The best education, every opportunity, everything except you. You're never here. Even when you're physically present, you're somewhere else. I'm building a legacy for you. I don't want your legacy, or your money. I want my mother back." But Eleanor couldn't be what Olivia needed. The grief was still too raw, the memories too painful. Every time she looked at her daughter, she saw Robert's eyes staring back. "Then go," Eleanor had said. "If you're so determined to reject everything I've worked for, that's it. You won't even fight for me to stay." Eleanor had turned away, unable to bear the hurt in those familiar eyes. "You've made your choice, and you've made yours. Goodbye, Mother." 10 years of silence followed. 10 birthdays, 10 Christmases. The Sinclair empire expanded across continents, while Eleanor's personal world contracted to her office and penthouse. She hired private investigators occasionally, ensuring Olivia was safe but maintaining her distance. The reports were clinical. Olivia had married Tom Peterson, an English teacher. They struggled financially but seemed happy. 3 children followed. Eleanor had grandchildren she'd never met. Their photos, secretly obtained, were locked in the same drawer as the unsent cards. "You'd be so disappointed in me, Robert," she whispered to the photograph. "I failed her. I failed us." Eleanor Sinclair, who controlled markets with a single decision, who could make or break corporate empires with a signature, was powerless to bridge the chasm she had created with her only child. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Sinclair, the board is asking if you'll be joining them." Eleanor closed the drawer and locked away the memories once more. "Tell them I've been delayed. We'll reschedule for tomorrow." She returned to the window, staring at the city below. All this power, All this wealthy, and for what? To come home to an empty penthouse every night. To die alone someday, surrounded by acquisitions instead of loved ones. For the first time in years, Eleanor Sinclair admitted to herself that she had built an empire of emptiness. 3 months earlier, Eleanor had been reviewing a routine acquisition portfolio of distressed mortgages her company had purchased from a struggling regional bank. It was the kind of paperwork she normally delegated, but sleeplessness had driven her to the office at 4 a.m., and she preferred drowning in work to drowning in memories. The name caught her eye on page 47, Peterson, Thomas and Olivia. Property address, 1842 Maple Street, Arlington Heights. Eleanor's hand froze above the document. After 10 years of deliberate distance, fate had placed her daughter's mortgage literally in her hands. Ms. Sinclair. Ruth appeared at the door with, "Coffee, you're here early." Eleanor quickly flipped the page. "Just catching up." After Ruth left, Eleanor returned to the Peterson file. 3 months of missed payments. Foreclosure proceedings scheduled to begin next week. Her daughter was about to lose her home. Eleanor's first instinct was corporate detachment, just another property in a portfolio of hundreds. But something deeper, something she'd suppressed for a decade, stirred within her. She opened her laptop and found the address on a real estate website. The modest 2-story home needed repairs. Peeling paint, a sagging porch, an overgrown garden. Nothing like the luxury Olivia had grown up with. Eleanor clicked through 2 property records. The Petersons had purchased the house 7 years ago. Shortly before their first child was born, they'd refinanced twice as interest rates dropped. But the most recent loan carried a higher rate. Desperation financing, Eleanor recognized. They'd been struggling for some time. Before she could reconsider, Eleanor picked up the phone. "Legal department. This is Eleanor Sinclair. I need the Peterson mortgage on Maple Street in Arlington Heights removed from the foreclosure list, ma'am." "You heard me, and I want all future payments directed to my personal account. I'll cover them." "But Miss Sinclair, that's highly irregular." "Just do it. And this remains confidential." Eleanor hung up, her heart racing. After a decade of absence, she was inserting herself into Olivia's life secretly, but nonetheless, was it an invasion of privacy? Probably. Would Olivia see it as manipulation? Almost certainly. But Eleanor couldn't bear the thought of her grandchildren homeless. For the next 3 months, Eleanor paid the Peterson mortgage on the 15th of each month. She told herself it was temporary, just until she figured out a more permanent solution. But each payment became a tenuous connection to the family she'd lost. She hired a more thorough investigator this time. The reports she received painted a fuller picture of the Petersons' life. Tom taught high school English and coached basketball. Olivia worked part-time as a nurse while studying to become a nurse practitioner. Their oldest, Emma, was artistic and had won several school competitions. Liam played soccer and struggled with math. Little Grace had recently started kindergarten. They were happy despite their financial troubles. The investigator noted they often ate dinner together, played board games on Friday nights, and attended each other's events and games, without fail. Everything Eleanor and Olivia had never had after Robert died. One photo in particular haunted Eleanor, Olivia laughing with her children, her head thrown back in a gesture so reminiscent of Robert that it physically hurt to look at. The joy in her daughter's face was something Eleanor hadn't seen in 15 years. "What would you do, Robert?" she asked the empty room. The answer came not in words but in a memory. Robert always said relationships mattered more than achievements. Eleanor had forgotten that lesson in her grief. She began driving past the house occasionally, always careful to remain unnoticed. Once, she saw Tom and Liam tossing a football in the front yard. Another time, Emma sat on the porch steps, sketching. And once, heartbreakingly, she spotted Olivia on the porch swing, staring into the distance with an expression Eleanor recognized from her own mere loneliness. 3 months of silent observation. 3 months of anonymous mortgage payments. 3 months of growing certainty that she needed to do more than hide behind financial transactions. 2 days ago, Eleanor had received another report. The Petersons' heating system was failing. With winter settling in and temperatures dropping, they were using space heaters as a temporary solution. It was the push Eleanor needed. She couldn't remain a shadow benefactor any longer. She instructed her lawyer to prepare the mortgage documents, transferring ownership to Olivia, no strings attached. A gift, not a power play. And then, for the first time in 10 years, Eleanor Sinclair wrote her daughter's address on an envelope not for a private investigator, but for herself. Eleanor's knuckles hovered inches from the door. The sound of children's laughter drifted through the thin walls. A decade of silence, and now only what separated her from the family she'd lost. She knocked. 3 sharp raps that echoed her thundering heartbeat. The laughter inside ceased. Footsteps approached heavy mail. The door swung open. Tom Peterson had aged since the wedding photo in Eleanor's drawer. His sandy hair was thinning, lines creased. The corners of his eyes and his shoulders stooped slightly from years of bending to listen to students. His expression shifted from neutral inquiry to stone-cold recognition. Mrs. Sinclair, not a question, not a greeting. A statement laden with history he'd only heard one side of. Mr. Peterson. Eleanor managed a slight nod. I'm here to see Olivia. Why now? After all these years? Before Eleanor could answer, a female voice called from inside. Tom, who is it? Olivia appeared behind her husband, wiping her hands on a dish. She froze, the towel slipping from her fingers. Eleanor barely recognized her daughter. The rebellious teenager had become a woman, hair shorter, face more angular, eyes harder. But when shock parted her lips, Eleanor saw Robert in her expression. Mother. The word hung between them, sharp as glass. Hello, Olivia. Silence stretched until a small voice broke it. Daddy, who's at the door? A girl of about 5 peered around Olivia's legs, dark curls framing curious eyes. Robert's eyes. Eleanor's breath caught. Tom placed a protective hand on his daughter's head. Just someone your mom used to know, Grace. From the hospital? The child asked. No, Olivia said, her voice tight. From ... before. She was my boss, a long time ago. The lie cut deeper than outright rejection. Eleanor had been reduced to a former employer in her grandchildren's narrative. May I come in? Eleanor asked, clutching her envelope tighter. This isn't a good time, Tom began, but Olivia laid a restraining hand on his arm. 5 minutes, she said. The children need to finish dinner anyway. Tom's jaw tightened, but he stepped aside with obvious reluctance. Eleanor entered a home that told the story of financial struggle and familial love. The furniture was mismatched but arranged. For conversation, bookshelves overflowed with well-worn paperbacks. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. A space heater hummed in the corner, barely warming the drafty living room. Kids, go finish your mac and cheese, Tom directed. Eleanor caught glimpses of 2 more children at the dining table. A boy who must be Liam, and an older girl who could only be Emma. They stared at her with undisguised curiosity before reluctantly returning to their meal. You have 5 minutes, Olivia said, arms crossed. Why are you here? Eleanor glanced at Tom, who showed no intention of leaving. I thought perhaps we could speak privately. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of my husband. The emphasis on my husband was deliberate, a reminder of life events Eleanor had missed. Very well, Eleanor struggled to find the words she'd rehearsed. I recently became aware of your ... situation. Tom's expression darkened. You mean you've been spying on us? No, private investigators. Olivia guessed. All these years? Keeping tabs without actually caring enough to reach out. Eleanor's silence confirmed the accusation. Unbelievable. Tom shook his head. 10 years of nothing, and now you show up when we're struggling. What is this? Some power play? Going to offer money with strings attached? It's not like that, Eleanor said. But even to her own ears, the protest sounded weak. Then what is it like, Mother? Olivia's voice cracked slightly on the word mother. Because from where I'm standing, this looks exactly like you appearing when you can play savior, when you can control the situation. Eleanor's practiced speech dissolved. She'd anticipated anger, even rejection, but not this piercing insight into her own motives. Was that how Olivia saw her? As manipulative rather than caring? I made mistakes, Eleanor admitted quietly. Mistakes? Olivia laughed bitterly. Is that what you call abandoning your grieving daughter? I never abandoned you. I provided everything except what I needed most. Olivia's eyes glistened. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Your checkbook has always been a substitute for your heart. From the dining room, small faces watched with solemn eyes. Grace whispered something to Emma, who hushed her without looking away from the adults' confrontation. Your 5 minutes are up, Tom said. I think you should leave. Eleanor nodded stiffly, her dignity the only thing she had left. She placed the envelope on a side table. What's that? Olivia asked suspiciously. Information you might find useful. About your mortgage. Tom's expression shifted from anger to alarm. What about our mortgage? Eleanor moved toward the door. Just look at it, please. As she stepped onto the porch, Grace's voice drifted from the dining room. Mommy, why does that lady look sad like you do sometimes? The door closed before Eleanor could hear Olivia's answer. Eleanor sat in her car across the street, unable to drive away. Through the curtained windows of the Peterson home, shadows moved, a family continuing their evening as if her world hadn't just shattered again. Her phone rang. Ruth, the board is asking about the Westlake project deadline. Handle it, Eleanor said. I'll be unavailable until tomorrow. She ended the call before Ruth could ask questions. The empire could wait. For once, it wasn't her priority. Movement caught her eye. The front door opened and Olivia stepped onto the porch. She looked directly at Eleanor's car, then walked toward it with determined steps. Eleanor lowered the window. You're still here, Olivia said. I was about to leave. Tom is processing what's in that envelope. Olivia wrapped her cardigan tighter. Against the cold, the kids are asking questions about you. Eleanor waited, afraid to hope. I told them you're my mother. Their grandmother. Olivia's voice was flat. They want to meet you properly. I'd like that. This doesn't mean I've forgiven you. I understand. 5 minutes, Olivia said. That's all. Then we'll decide where this goes, if anywhere. Inside. The children had been arranged on the sofa, like a portrait sitting. Emma, the oldest at 12, sat straight-backed with wary eyes that evaluated Eleanor's designer outfit with unsettling perception. Liam, 8 and fidgety, occupied the middle cushion, sneakered feet swinging without touching the floor. 5-year-old Grace perched on the end, barely containing her excitement. Tom stood behind them, one hand on Emma's shoulder, ready to intervene. Children, Olivia said with forced neutrality. This is Eleanor Sinclair, my mother, your grandmother. The word grandmother hung in the air like an undetonated explosive. Grace broke the tension, bouncing off the couch. I knew you were somebody special. Do you like unicorns? I have 7, Grace, Tom cautioned. But Eleanor had already knelt to the child's level. I do like unicorns, she said softly. When I was little, I had a stuffed one named Sparkle. Grace's eyes widened. My favorite is named Glimmer. That's almost the same. Emma observed the exchange with Robert's analytical gaze. If you're our grandmother, why haven't we met you before? The directness, so like Eleanor herself, caught her off guard. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, she answered carefully. Big ones that take a long time to fix. Did you and Mom have a fight? Liam asked. Liam, Olivia warned. It's all right, Eleanor said. Yes, we had a disagreement. A very serious one. When Dad and I fight, we have to say sorry, Liam informed her. That's very wise, Eleanor said. Saying sorry is important. Did you say sorry to Mom? Eleanor met Olivia's gaze over the children's heads. Not properly, not yet. Grace tugged at Eleanor's sleeve. Do you want to see my room? I have all my unicorns there. Another time, maybe, Tom intervened. It's getting close to bedtime. Where do you live? Emma asked, still evaluating. In the city, in an apartment. Is it big? Eleanor hesitated. Yes, it's quite large. Do you live there all by yourself? I do. That sounds lonely, Emma said with unexpected compassion. The observation, so simple and devastating, pierced Eleanor's composure. Sometimes it is. Grace climbed onto the couch. Again, this time next to Eleanor. If you're lonely, you could live here. We have a spare room, but it's full of Daddy's books. Grace, Tom said sharply. That's not what a sweet offer, Eleanor interrupted smoothly. But I think that would be quite complicated. Because of the fight, Liam asked. Partly, Eleanor admitted. And because she has her own life, Olivia added an edge to her voice. A very important, busy life. Eleanor recognized the echo of old arguments. Not too busy for family, she said quietly. Not anymore. The statement hung between them like a white flag tentative, uncertain if it would be acknowledged. Emma studied Eleanor with that unnerving perception. You look like Mom when she's thinking too hard, right around the eyes. Your mother looks like her father, Eleanor said. My husband, your grandfather, he died, Olivia explained to the children, before any of you were born. Like Mrs. Henderson's husband, Emma said, making connections. She keeps his picture on her piano and gets sad sometimes. Eleanor wondered if Olivia kept any pictures of Robert, or of her. I have pictures, Eleanor offered, of your grandfather, and of your mother. When she was your age, would you like to see them sometime? 3 heads nodded with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Mom never shows us baby pictures, Liam complained. A shadow crossed Olivia's face. They're packed away. Eleanor understood the unspoken truth. Those photos included her, and Olivia couldn't bear to look at them. I should go, Eleanor said, rising. Thank you for letting me meet your children, Olivia. They're wonderful. They are, Tom agreed, his first non-hostile words to her. As Eleanor moved toward the door, Grace darted forward and wrapped her arms around Eleanor's legs in a quick hug. Bye, Grandma. The words spoken for the first time nearly brought Eleanor to her knees. She touched the child's curls gently. Goodbye, Grace. Olivia walked her to the door. On the porch, out of the children's earshot, she finally spoke. The mortgage document. Is it legitimate? Completely. The house is yours. No conditions. Why? Because it should be. Because I can. Olivia shook her head. 10 years of nothing. And now this grand gesture. Classic Eleanor Sinclair. Olivia. Need time to think about what this means. What I want it to mean. Eleanor nodded. I understand, but may I? May I see them again? Olivia hesitated, then sighed. Sunday dinner, 5 o'clock. Don't be late. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a door. Slightly ajar. Eleanor had just finished reviewing quarterly projections when Tom's voice filled the Peterson home through her phone. She'd hired a company to install security cameras with audio after her first visit, telling herself it was for their protection, not surveillance. Now, alone in her office, she watched their lives unfold like a television drama she couldn't stop watching. It happened again, Tom was saying, pacing the kitchen with a piece of paper in his hand. 3rd month in a row. Olivia looked up from helping Liam with homework. What happened? The mortgage payment. It wasn't just transferred to our name. This month's payment was made to Eleanor, leaned closer to her screen. She'd instructed her financial team to transfer the mortgage to Olivia's name, but hadn't canceled the automatic payments yet. An oversight that might now expose her. I don't understand, Olivia said, taking the paper from Tom. Who's paying it? That's what I asked the bank. They said the payments are coming through a corporate account, but they're not at liberty to disclose the source. Olivia's brow furrowed. A corporate account. Eleanor held her breath. How quickly would Olivia connect the dots? It's weird, right? Tom ran a hand through his hair. First the mortgage gets transferred to our name, and now someone's making the payments. Maybe it's a mistake, Olivia suggested. Maybe they're crediting the wrong account. For 3 months straight, that's a mistake. Emma appeared in the doorway. What's going on? Adult stuff, Tom said automatically. Is it about Grandma? Emma asked, displaying that uncanny perception that reminded Eleanor so much of herself. Olivia and Tom exchanged glances. Why would you think that? Olivia asked carefully. Emma shrugged. She's rich, right? I googled her. Sinclair Enterprises is worth billions. You googled her? Olivia looked shocked. Sure, wouldn't you want to know about someone who just showed up claiming to be your grandmother? Tom looked like he wanted to be angry but couldn't argue with the logic. What else did you find out? She's on the Fortune 500 list. She owns like a dozen companies. There's a building downtown with her name on it. Emma tilted her head. Is she the one paying our mortgage? Eleanor watched Olivia's face closely. Her daughter had always been quick. She'd see the connection immediately. I think, Olivia said slowly, that's a conversation I need to have with her. So she is our benefactor, Emma concluded. Benefactor. Tom raised an eyebrow. It means someone who helps people with money, Emma explained. I know what it means, Tom said, irritation edging his voice. I'm an English teacher. Then why did you ask? Tom sighed. Go finish your homework, please. When Emma had gone, Tom turned to Olivia. You think your mother is behind this? Who else would it be? The timing fits. She shows up right after our mortgage mysteriously gets transferred to our name. But why secretly pay it for months before revealing herself? Eleanor wanted to know the answer to that question herself. Why had she hidden behind anonymous payments, instead of reaching out sooner? That's very on brand for her, Olivia said bitterly, controlling things from a distance, throwing money at problems instead of actually engaging. The words stung, even through the digital remove of the security feed. You sound angry, Tom observed. Wouldn't you be? She thinks she can just buy her way back into our lives after 10 years of silence. If she's our mysterious benefactor, Tom said, she's saved us from foreclosure. That counts for something. Eleanor hadn't expected Tom to defend her. It's the how, not the what, Olivia said. She's always believed money could substitute for actual presence, actual care. Write a check instead of showing up. She's showing up now, Tom pointed out. Sunday dinner, remember? Olivia began aggressively wiping down the already clean counter. And we're supposed to just welcome her with open arms because she's finally decided we're worth her time. The kids are excited to meet their grandmother properly. Of course they are. They don't know what she's like. Maybe she's changed, Tom suggested. Olivia laughed without humor. Eleanor Sinclair doesn't change. She reshapes the world to suit her purposes. Eleanor winced. Was that truly how her daughter saw her? On screen, Grace skipped into the kitchen, clutching a drawing. Look what I made for Grandma. The artwork depicted 4 small stick figures and 2 larger ones in front of a house, with an additional tall figure off to the side. Welcome to our family was written in wobbly kindergarten letters across the top. That's nice, honey, Olivia said, her expression softening. The tall one is Grandma, Grace explained, pointing. She's far away because she lives in the city, but the arrow means she's coming to us. The simple drawing captured their situation with painful accuracy. Eleanor, the tall figure, separated but connected by the child's hopeful arrow. Tom knelt beside his daughter. I'm sure she'll love it. Can I call her? To tell her about it. Olivia and Tom exchanged glances. We don't have her number, sweetie, Olivia said. Actually, Tom admitted, she left her card. It's on the fridge. And you? Didn't tell me? Olivia looked betrayed. I forgot. With everything else going on, ... Grace was already pulling the business card from under a butterfly magnet. Can I call her, please? Eleanor's private line, the one that bypassed Ruth and rang directly to her. She kept it close at all times, but received calls on it perhaps once a year. Olivia hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Put it on speaker. Eleanor quickly closed the security feed and composed herself. Seconds later, her phone rang. Eleanor Sinclair speaking. Grandma, it's me, Grace. The pure joy in the child's voice washed away all of Eleanor's corporate composure. Hello, Grace, she said, her voice softening. This is a wonderful surprise. I made you a picture. For when you come to dinner, I can't wait to see it. It has all of us. And you too. You're tall. Are you really tall? Eleanor smiled. Not especially, perhaps just in comparison. Mom and Dad are here too, Grace said. You're on the speaking phone. Speakerphone, Tom corrected gently. Hello, Mrs. Sinclair. Mr. Peterson. Eleanor kept her tone neutral. Olivia, mother. Olivia's voice was cool. We've been discussing our ... financial situation. Perhaps you could shed some light. Eleanor took a deep breath. I think that's a conversation better had in person. So it is you, Olivia said, making our mortgage payments. A pause, yes, without telling us I was going to. That's why I came. The silence stretched until Grace broke it. Is that why? Mommy's mad because you're helping with the house. Out of the mouths of babes. Sometimes, Eleanor said carefully, grown-ups need to talk about how help is given, not just that it's given. Like when Daddy says it's how you say something, not what you say. Exactly like that. We'll discuss this on Sunday, Olivia said firmly. Grace, say goodbye now. Bye, Grandma. Don't forget dinner. I won't forget, Eleanor promised. I'm looking forward to it very much. After the call ended, Eleanor sat holding the silent phone, a strange mix of anticipation and dread settling in her stomach. Sunday would either be a new beginning or the final confirmation that some bridges, once broken, could never be rebuilt. Sunday dinner had been a carefully orchestrated affair. The children were on their best behavior. Tom maintained civil neutrality, and Olivia served pot roast with mechanical precision. Conversation stayed safely in the shallow waters of school activities and neighborhood news. Eleanor shared carefully edited stories of her own childhood, omitting the privilege that had shaped it now. With the children occupied with a movie in the living room and Tom tackling the dishes, Eleanor and Olivia sat across from each other. At the kitchen table, 2 cups of cooling tea created a fragile boundary between them. The mortgage payments will stop, Eleanor said, breaking the silence. The house is yours free and clear, just like that. Olivia's voice was flat. A snap of your fingers and our biggest financial burden disappears. I thought you'd be relieved. Relief isn't what I'm feeling right now. Then what are you feeling, Olivia? Her daughter's fingers tightened around her mug. Anger, confusion, suspicion. Suspicion. What's your angle here? What do you want? The question sliced through Eleanor's practiced composure. Is it so hard to believe I simply want to help? Yes. Olivia met her gaze directly. Because nothing has ever been simple with you. There's always a condition, an expectation, an agenda. That's not fair, isn't it? After Dad died, your help came with the expectation that I'd follow your life plan for me. Business school. A position at Sinclair Enterprises. The proper connection to the proper young man from the proper family. I wanted security for you. No, you wanted a mini Eleanor, someone to mold into your image. Eleanor flinched. Is that really how you saw it? How else should I have seen it? You never asked what I wanted. You dictated, you controlled. Just like you're doing now with these secret mortgage payments. I'm not trying to control you. Then what do you call it? Eleanor searched for the right words. A gesture, an attempt to make amends. By throwing money at the problem. Classic Eleanor Sinclair's solution. The familiar accusation stung. What would you have had me do? Call out of the blue after 10 years? You would have hung up. You don't know that, don't I? Look how you're reacting now. Olivia's eyes flashed. Because you went behind my back. You investigated us. You bought our mortgage without our knowledge. You installed yourself as our secret benefactor and then you show up expecting gratitude. I don't expect gratitude. Then what do you expect? Eleanor's carefully constructed facade cracked. A chance, she said, her voice suddenly smaller. Just a chance to know my daughter again. To know my grandchildren. Silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. You had chances, Olivia finally said. 10 years of chances, I know. You never called, not once. You told me not to. Olivia laughed bitterly. And the great Eleanor Sinclair always does what she's told. Since when? I respected your wishes. No, you took the easy way out. It was simpler to let me go than to face your own grief. The truth of it knocked the air from Eleanor's lungs. After your father died, don't. Olivia raised a hand. Don't use Dad as an excuse. I lost him too, remember? I was 16 and I lost both parents that day. He died, and you disappeared into your work. I had to keep things going. The company was always more important. I get it. I've always gotten it. That's not true. Eleanor leaned forward. You and your father were everything to me. Then where were you when I graduated? When I got married? When your grandchildren were born? Each question landed like a physical blow. I made mistakes, Eleanor admitted. Terrible ones. Yes, you did. But I'm here now, trying to make amends. Olivia shook her head. You can't just buy your way back into our lives. I'm not trying to. The house is a gift, not a transaction. No strings attached. Everything with you has strings, not this time. Eleanor reached across the table, not quite touching Olivia's hand. The house is yours regardless of what you decide about me. Olivia studied her mother's face, searching for deception. Why now? After all this time, the question Eleanor had been dreading. The truth felt too raw, too vulnerable to voice. I'm tired of being alone, she finally said. I built an empire and lost everything that mattered in the process. So this is about you feeling lonely? No. Eleanor shook her head. It's about realizing what's truly important before it's too late. It might already be too late. The words hung between them, a possibility too painful to contemplate. Is that what you want? Eleanor asked quietly. For me to walk away again. Olivia's composure finally cracked. What I wanted was a mother who chose me over her company. What I wanted was for you to fight for our relationship, instead of letting it die. What I wanted was for you to be there. Tears welled in her eyes, and she brushed them away angrily. Do you know how many times I almost called you? When I found out I was pregnant with Emma. When Grace was in the hospital with pneumonia as a baby. When Tom's mother died and I had no family to stand beside us at the funeral. Each missed moment was another weight on Eleanor's conscience. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Olivia. Sorry doesn't change the past. No, but perhaps it can change the future. Tom appeared in the doorway, clearly having heard at least part of their conversation. The kids are asking for ice cream, he said. And they want their grandmother to join them. The word grandmother still sounded strange, a title Eleanor had done nothing to earn. Olivia wiped her eyes. We're not finished with this conversation. I know, Eleanor said. But perhaps we can press pause. A moment of silent communication passed between mother and daughter, the first glimmer of their old connection. I'll get the ice cream, Olivia said, rising from the table. Rocky Road, still your favorite. The simple fact that Olivia remembered felt like the first plank laid across a broken bridge. Yes, Eleanor said, it is. The evening had softened into something almost comfortable, as Eleanor helped Grace build an ice cream sundae that defied gravity. Emma watched with analytical interest, while Liam attempted to fit as many chocolate chips as possible onto his single scoop. Careful, Eleanor cautioned, as Grace's tower of whipped cream tilted precariously. Architecture requires a strong foundation. Like buildings? Grace asked, carefully redistributing the whipped cream. Exactly like buildings. Eleanor smiled. I've built quite a few. Real ones. Liam looked up from his chocolate chip mountain. Real ones, very tall ones. Cool. It was the first genuinely impressed response from the boy. The tallest building I've ever been in is the library downtown. Perhaps someday I could show you some taller ones, Eleanor said, then immediately glanced at Olivia, uncertain if she'd overstepped. Olivia's expression remained neutral, neither encouraging nor forbidding the idea. Do you have an office at the very top, like in movies? Emma asked. I do, actually. With windows all around. Can you see the whole city? Most of it. Do you have a helicopter? Liam's eyes widened at the possibility. Eleanor laughed. The company has one, yes. Have you flown in it? Many times. The children exchanged impressed glances, and Eleanor felt a strange warmth at their approval. When was the last time someone had looked at her with simple admiration rather than fear or deference? Time to finish up, Tom announced, checking his watch. School night. A chorus of protests rose from the children. 5 more minutes, Grace pleaded, looking to Eleanor for support. Your father's right, Eleanor said, surprising herself with the parental solidarity. Education is important. Tom raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting the backup. As the children reluctantly finished their ice cream, Eleanor reached into her purse. I brought something for each of you. She'd spent hours selecting the gifts, trying to balance her resources against the risk of appearing to buy affection. For Emma, a professional sketchbook and set of artist pencils. For Liam, a model rocket kit with a remote launcher. For Grace, a stuffed unicorn with rainbow-colored fur. The real gifts, she added hastily, are the ones I can't wrap. Time, attention, getting to know each other. Tom and Olivia exchanged a glance she couldn't interpret. Thank you, Grandma, the children chorused, with varying degrees of coaching. These are lovely, Olivia said carefully. But perhaps check with us before bringing gifts next time. The subtle boundary setting was clear. Eleanor nodded. Of course. Bedtime, Tom announced firmly. Say goodnight to your grandmother. As the children filed past, Grace stopped and wrapped her arms around Eleanor's waist. You should come back tomorrow. Grace, Olivia cautioned. But tomorrow is my soccer game. Grace insisted. Everybody's family comes. The word family hung in the air, a designation Eleanor hadn't yet earned. I'm sure your grandmother is very busy, Tom said. Eleanor found herself speaking before thinking. Actually, I could make time. Really? Grace's face lit up. If it's all right with your parents, Eleanor added quickly. Tom looked to Olivia, who seemed caught between reluctance and resignation. It's a public event, Olivia finally said. Anyone can attend. Not quite an invitation, but not a rejection either. Then I'll be there, Eleanor promised. What time? 4 o'clock at Riverside Elementary, Tom supplied. Grace wears number 7. The best number, Grace declared. Definitely the best number, Eleanor agreed solemnly as the children disappeared upstairs. An awkward silence descended on the adults. I should go, Eleanor said, reaching for her coat. I'll walk you out, Olivia offered unexpectedly. On the porch, the night air carried the first hint of winter. Eleanor wrapped her cashmere scarf tighter. Thank you for dinner, she said formally. It was delicious. Tom did most of the cooking, Olivia admitted. He's the chef in the family. He's a good man, the best. Olivia's tone softened. He's been there for every moment, every crisis, every celebration. Never once putting anything above us. The pointed comparison wasn't lost on Eleanor. You've built a beautiful family, she said quietly. I'm proud of you, Olivia. Her daughter's expression flickered with surprise. Are you? Immensely. You're a wonderful mother, much better than I was. I had a clear example of what not to do, Olivia said, but the edge had dulled from her voice. Eleanor nodded, accepting the criticism. I deserved that. Yes, you did, Olivia sighed. But perhaps there's been enough punishment on both sides. What do you mean? I'm not the only one who lost something these past 10 years. Olivia hesitated. You missed a lot. Bye. My own choices, Eleanor acknowledged. I have no right to complain about the consequences. No, but that doesn't mean they didn't hurt. The simple recognition that Eleanor too had suffered created a small opening between them. About tomorrow, Olivia said. Grace's game, I understand. If you'd rather I didn't come, no, it's fine, just, no grand gestures. Okay? No showing up with expensive equipment or hired photographers. It's a kindergarten soccer game, not a corporate event. Eleanor smiled ruefully, noted. I'll leave the helicopter at home. The joke small, but genuine surprised them both. One more thing, Olivia said, reaching into her pocket. You left this on the coffee table. She held out an elegant fountain. Pen one of Eleanor's favorites, monogrammed with her initials. I didn't realize I'd forgotten it. Grace has been carrying it around all evening. She says it's magic because it writes so smoothly. She can keep it, Eleanor said impulsively. It looks expensive. It's just a pen. Olivia shook her head. See, that's exactly what I mean. To you, it's just a pen. But I know enough about your tastes to recognize it probably costs more than our monthly utilities. I didn't think that's the problem. You don't think about money the way normal people do. Olivia pressed the pen into Eleanor's hand. Take it. If you want to give Grace something she'll treasure, give her your time instead. The lesson stung, but Eleanor accepted it with a nod. You're right, I'm still learning, are you? Really? I'm trying to. Olivia studied her with those penetrating Robert's eyes. We'll see. As Eleanor turned to leave, she paused. Olivia, yes. For what it's worth, I missed you, every day. Olivia didn't answer, but she didn't close the door until Eleanor had safely reached her car, a small courtesy that felt like progress. As she drove away, Eleanor noticed a small drawing tucked under her windshield wiper. Grace's artwork from earlier, secured with a piece of children's tape. The stick figure family, with the tall Eleanor figure connected by a hopeful arrow. For the first time in years, Eleanor Sinclair drove home with tears blurring her vision. Eleanor stared at the Armani suit laid out on her bed, then at the casual outfit Ruth had purchased at her request. designer jeans that had never been worn, a cashmere sweater with the tags still attached, and loafers that cost more than some people's monthly rent, but were the least formal footwear she owned. A kindergarten soccer game, she murmured to herself. No grand gestures. She chose the casual outfit, then frowned at her reflection. Even dressed down, she looked like what she was, a woman accustomed to boardrooms and charity galas, not sideline cheering. Her phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Executive Committee, 3:30 p.m. The soccer game started at 4. Eleanor picked up her phone and called Ruth. I need you to reschedule the executive committee meeting. A pause. The quarterly review. The one that's been on the calendar for months. Yes, that one. But Miss Sinclair, the Tokyo team is calling in specially, and the London office reschedule. Ruth, may I ask why? Eleanor hesitated. In 15 years, she had never once prioritized a personal commitment over Sinclair Enterprises business. I have a family obligation. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. A family obligation, Ruth repeated carefully. Of course, I'll reschedule immediately, thank you. Eleanor ended the call, knowing rumors would circulate. Eleanor Sinclair, putting family before business. Impossible. Yet here she was, choosing a children's soccer game over a multi-million-dollar quarterly review. The penthouse felt cavernous as she moved through it, stopping before the single personal photograph in the living room. Robert smiled back at her, forever preserved in his early 40s. I'm trying, she told the photograph. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I'm trying. By 3:30, Eleanor was parking near Riverside Elementary School, deliberately choosing a spot at the far end of the lot. No chauffeur, no luxury vehicle close to the entrance, no grand gestures. She followed other parents toward the playing fields, feeling conspicuously out of place despite her casual attire. Parents clustered in familiar groups, calling greetings to each other, sharing snacks and stories. Eleanor walked alone. The kindergarten game was set up on a small field with miniature goals. Children in oversized jerseys milled about, more interested in socializing than warming up. Eleanor scanned the crowd until she spotted a flash of familiar dark curls. Grace, in a blue jersey with the number 7, was spinning in circles while her teammates giggled on the sidelines. Olivia and Tom stood with Liam and Emma. Eleanor approached hesitantly, uncertain of her welcome. Emma noticed her first. Grandma, you came. The exclamation drew glances from nearby parents, curious, evaluating. I said I would, Eleanor replied, reaching the family. You're not wearing business clothes, Liam observed. Soccer games call for comfortable attire, Eleanor said solemnly. Tom's eyebrows rose slightly. You know about soccer. I know one cheers when the ball goes into the net. A small smile tugged at his lips. That's the foundation of it, yes. Olivia seemed surprised by Eleanor's appearance, but said only, Grace has been talking about you coming all day. I wouldn't have missed it. As if summoned by her name, Grace spotted Eleanor and came running over, cleats clumping awkwardly on. The grass, Grandma, you're here. She crashed into Eleanor's legs with the full body enthusiasm only small children can muster. Careful, Olivia cautioned. Don't knock her over. I'm sturdier than I look, Eleanor said, steadying herself. Grace looked up, beaming. Are you going to watch me score goals? Every single one. I scored 3 last time. That's impressive. Tom coughed slightly. Well, the concept of positions is still developing at this age. Sometimes the entire team follows the ball like a swarm of bees. The bee approach. Eleanor nodded seriously. A classic strategy. Another small smile from Tom. Progress, Mrs. Peterson, a hurried-looking woman approached, clipboard in hand. We're short a parent volunteer for today. Could you help with snacks at halftime? Actually, I'm on scoreboard duty, Olivia said. But I could help. Eleanor found herself offering. Everyone stared at her. You, Olivia asked, disbelief evident. Unless you'd rather I didn't. Eleanor backtracked. The clipboard woman looked Eleanor up and down, taking in her designer casual. Where? Have you done snack duty before? No, but I've orchestrated charity galas for over 1,000 people. I believe I can manage juice boxes and orange slices. Olivia made a small noise that might have been a suppressed laugh. Great. The woman thrust a sheet at Eleanor. Here's the allergy list. Snacks are in the blue cooler by the bench. Thanks, Mrs. Sinclair, Eleanor Sinclair. Recognition dawned on the woman's face, as in Sinclair Tower. Yes. And you're volunteering for snack duty. Eleanor met her gaze steadily. Is that a problem? No, of course not. It's just ... unexpected. I'm Grace's grandmother, Eleanor said, the word still new on her tongue. Family helps family. The phrase landed with visible impact on Olivia, whose expression softened. Fractionally, the referee's whistle blew, signaling the start of warm-ups. I have to go, Grace announced. Watch me, Grandma. I'll be right here, Eleanor promised. As Grace ran back to her team, Emma turned to Eleanor. If you're really Sinclair Tower, does that mean you built it? My company did, yes, the whole thing. From blueprints to the final inspection, Emma's eyes widened. That's actually kind of cool. From Emma, the admission felt like winning an Olympic medal. As the game began, a chaotic scramble of small children, loosely organized around a soccer ball, Eleanor found herself caught up in the simple joy of watching Grace. The child played with exuberant determination, frequently running in the wrong direction, but doing so with complete conviction. Midway through the first half, Eleanor's phone rang. The executive committee, calling anyway. Despite the rescheduling, without hesitation, she silenced it. Tom noticed. Important call. Nothing that can't wait. He studied her with new interest. The Eleanor Sinclair I've heard about for years wouldn't say that. Perhaps she's learning new priorities. Across the field, Grace managed to connect with the ball, sending it dribbling toward the wrong goal. The crowd of parents cheered anyway. Go Grace, Eleanor called, surprising herself with her volume. Beside her, Olivia glanced over with an unreadable expression. What? Eleanor asked. Nothing, Olivia said. It's just ... I never imagined this. You at a children's soccer game, cheering like a regular grandmother. Is that good or bad? I'm still deciding. At halftime, Eleanor reported dutifully. To the blue cooler. She distributed juice boxes and orange slices to sweaty kindergartners, with the same attention to detail she gave to boardroom presentations. When a child spilled juice down the front of her cashmere sweater, she barely flinched. You're handling this remarkably well, Olivia observed, appearing at her side with extra napkins. It's just a sweater. A $500 sweater, if I had to guess. $750, Eleanor admitted, but still just fabric and thread. Olivia's lips quirked upward. Who are you, and what have you done with my mother? The question, despite its teasing tone, carried genuine curiosity. I'm still me, Eleanor said, just trying to be a better version, for the children. For all of you. For myself too. Olivia handed her another stack of napkins. Well, better version of my mother. You have a line of thirsty 5-year-olds waiting. As Eleanor resumed her distribution duties, she caught sight of Ruth standing at the edge of the field, tablet in hand, looking thoroughly out of place. The emergency must be significant for her assistant to track her down in person. Excuse me, she said to Olivia. Corporate shadows following me, I'm afraid. Olivia's expression closed off immediately. Of course, business calls. Just give me 2 minutes. Eleanor approached Ruth, who was already launching into crisis mode. Miss Sinclair, the Tokyo team is threatening to pull out if we don't reconvene today. The London office has restructured their entire schedule to accommodate this meeting. And Ruth, the projections for next quarter are showing concerning trends that require immediate Eleanor said more firmly. Look at field 3, Ruth blinked. I'm sorry. The small field with the miniature goals. The girl in blue, number 7. That's my granddaughter. Ruth's professional composure slipped. Your ... granddaughter. Yes, today is her soccer game. That's my family obligation. Ruth glanced between Eleanor and the field with undisguised shock. I didn't realize you had ... a family. Eleanor's smile held a touch of sadness. Neither did I, for too long. But the Tokyo team will wait until tomorrow, Eleanor said firmly, or they won't. Either way, I'm watching my granddaughter's game. Ruth stared at her employer of 15 years as if seeing a stranger. You're serious? Completely. I'll reschedule for tomorrow morning then. Thank you, Ruth. As her assistant departed, Eleanor turned back toward the field. Olivia stood watching the exchange, her expression guarded but thoughtful. Eleanor returned to her snack duty, aware that something fundamental had shifted, not just in how Olivia saw her, but in how she saw herself. Eleanor arrived for her third Sunday dinner at the Peterson home, with a careful selection of gifts tucked into a modest tote bag. The past 2 weeks had established a fragile routine: Sunday dinners, Wednesday phone calls with Grace, and occasional text messages from Olivia, updating her on the children's activities. The door opened before she could knock. Emma stood there, sketchbook in hand. "Hi, Grandma," she said, the title still sounding slightly experimental on her tongue. "Can you help me with something?" No hello, no preambled direct engagement. Eleanor rather admired the girl's forthrightness. "Of course." Emma led her to the dining table, where a drawing lay in progress. "I'm trying to get the perspective right on this building, but something looks off." Eleanor studied the detailed cityscape. "You have remarkable talent." "Thanks. But that doesn't fix my perspective problem." Eleanor smiled at the no-nonsense response. "Try extending your vanishing point lines lightly in pencil first. See how they converge here." She traced the invisible lines with her finger. "You're mixing two different vanishing points." Emma's eyes widened with understanding. "Oh, that's why it looks weird. The windows don't match the roofline." "Exactly. Architecture requires mathematical precision, even in art." "How do you know this stuff?" "I studied architectural design before business school. Buildings were my first love." Emma looked at her with new interest. "Really? I thought you were just, a business person." "There's usually more to people than first appears." Tom appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Welcome back, Eleanor." The shift from Mrs. Sinclair to her first name had occurred gradually over the past weeks, a small but significant change. "Something smells wonderful," Eleanor said. "Lasagna, family recipe." Tom's pride in his cooking was evident. "Olivia's upstairs helping Grace with her costume for the school play. She's going to be a tree," Liam announced, emerging from the living room. "A talking tree. It's weird." "I'm sure she'll be a very expressive tree," Eleanor said seriously. Liam grinned. "She keeps forgetting her lines and just making up tree facts instead." "Improvisation is a valuable skill." Eleanor set her tote bag on the table and began removing its contents. "I brought a few things." Tom watched warily, but relaxed when he saw the modest offerings. A book on perspective drawing for Emma, a science magazine featuring an article on rocket design for Liam, a picture book about a unicorn who wanted to be a tree for Grace. "And this," Eleanor said, placing a bottle of wine on the table, "is from a small vineyard in Sonoma that I thought you might enjoy." Tom examined the label. "This is ... very nice. Thank you. Not too extravagant, I hope." A small smile. "It's wine, not a sports car. I think we're good." The sound of footsteps heralded Olivia and Grace's arrival. Grace immediately launched herself at Eleanor with her customary enthusiasm. "Grandma, Mom says you're staying for a movie night too." Eleanor glanced at Olivia in surprise. "Am I? If you'd like to," Olivia said. "It's Liam's pick. Something with robots, I believe." "Transformers," Liam corrected. "The original, not the new one." "I'd be delighted to join you," Eleanor said. Touched by the extension of her usual visiting hours, dinner was served, and for the first time the conversation flowed naturally. Liam described his science project. Emma shared her frustration with art class limitations. Grace recited tree facts with solemn authority. Tom and Olivia exchanged stories about difficult parents at their respective workplaces. Eleanor found herself relaxing into the family dynamic, occasionally offering a comment or question, but mostly just absorbing the warm tableau before her. "What about you, Grandma?" Emma asked suddenly. "Did anything interesting happen at your work this week?" The question caught Eleanor off guard. No one had asked about her work. Before it had been the elephant in the room, the thing that had separated her from Olivia. "Actually, yes," she said carefully. I approved a new project to convert one of our older buildings into affordable housing. For families? Tom looked up, interested. Really? That doesn't sound like the typical corporate move. It's not, Eleanor admitted. The board wasn't thrilled, but I convinced them it was both ethically sound and financially viable in the long term. How many units? Tom asked. 52, with a childcare center on the ground floor for residents. Olivia studied her mother with a puzzled expression. That's actually impressive. Thank you, Eleanor said, unexpectedly warmed by the grudging approval. I've been reconsidering certain aspects of how Sinclair Enterprises operates. Because of us? Emma asked with typical directness. Eleanor considered the question. Partly she acknowledged. Seeing how hard your parents work for basic security has been... enlightening. An uncomfortable silence fell. I didn't mean to suggest... Eleanor began. It's fine, Olivia interrupted. It's the truth. We do work hard for what others take for granted. Like art school, Emma said glumly, pushing lasagna around her plate. Art school? Eleanor asked. Emma's been researching summer programs, Tom explained. There's an excellent one at the State University, but it's expensive, Emma added. Like really expensive. We're looking into scholarship options, Olivia said. Nothing's been decided yet. Eleanor bit her tongue against the immediate impulse to offer financial assistance. No grand gestures, she reminded herself. I studied art in high school, she said instead. Not very successfully, I'm afraid. My strength was always more technical. Drawing than creative expression. Is that why you went into architecture? Emma asked. Partly. I loved the combination of art and mathematics. Creativity within structure. That's exactly what I like about drawing buildings. Emma's eyes lit up. Everyone thinks I'm weird for drawing cityscapes instead of like people and animals. There's nothing weird about having a unique perspective, Eleanor said. Some of the most successful people I know are those who see things differently. Emma beamed. Mom, can I show Grandma my portfolio after dinner? Of course, Olivia said, her expression softening as she watched the exchange. After dinner, while Olivia and Tom prepared for movie night, Eleanor sat with Emma at the dining table, carefully reviewing each drawing in the girl's portfolio. The talent was undeniable, raw and untrained, but with remarkable potential. These are extraordinary, Eleanor said, studying a detailed sketch of what appeared to be Sinclair Tower. Is this from memory? Emma nodded. I looked up pictures online. After you said you built it, I'm impressed. You have a genuine gift, Emma. That's what my art teacher says. She's the one who told me about the summer program. Emma hesitated. It costs $3,500. Eleanor nodded, understanding the unspoken message. That's a significant investment. Yeah, Emma sighed. Mom and Dad say maybe next year, but I'll be in high school then, and the program is really for 8th graders. Eleanor closed the portfolio carefully. Sometimes opportunities come along at the wrong time. That's what Mom said. Your mother is a wise woman. Emma studied her grandmother with those perceptive eyes. You want to pay for it, don't you? Eleanor blinked, startled by the insight. What makes you say that? Because you look like Mom does. When she wants to fix something but can't. All ... contained. You're remarkably observant. So is it true you want to pay? Eleanor considered how to answer honestly without undermining Olivia and Tom's authority. I would like to help, yes. But sometimes help isn't wanted or needed, and it's important to respect that. Emma nodded slowly. Because of pride. Because of boundaries. Eleanor corrected gently. And yes, sometimes pride too. That's complicated. Family often is. Emma closed her sketchbook. I'm glad you're here now, even if you weren't before. The simple statement, delivered without drama or accusation, touched Eleanor deeply. So am I, Emma. More than I can say. Movie time, Liam called from the living room. Hurry up or you'll miss the good seats. As Eleanor rose to join the family, she felt a strange and unfamiliar sensation settling in her. Contentment. Eleanor was reviewing acquisition proposals in her home office when her phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Olivia's name on the screen sent an immediate spike of concern through her. They never spoke this late. Olivia, What's wrong? It's Grace. Olivia's voice was tight with controlled panic. We're at Memorial Hospital. She's having trouble breathing. They think it's pneumonia. Eleanor was already moving, phone pressed to her ear, grabbing her coat. I'm on my way. What can I bring? What do you need? Nothing. Olivia's voice broke slightly. I thought you should know. Which memorial? Downtown or west side? Downtown, pediatric emergency. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Eleanor made it in 15, using the influence of her name to secure VIP parking and immediate directions to Grace's location. She found Olivia pacing a small waiting area while Tom sat with a sleeping Liam and a worried-looking Emma. Eleanor, Tom acknowledged, relief evident in his exhausted face. That was fast. How is she? Eleanor asked, setting down her purse. They're doing tests, Olivia said, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her oxygen levels were low, and she had a high fever. They're talking about admitting her. What happened? She had a cold last week that seemed to get better. Then suddenly tonight, she couldn't catch her breath. She was crying and saying her chest hurt. Olivia's composure finally cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. Without thinking, Eleanor stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her daughter. To her surprise, Olivia didn't pull away but leaned into the embrace, accepting the comfort she offered. She'll be all right, Eleanor murmured. Children are resilient. She had pneumonia as a baby, Olivia said against Eleanor's shoulder. It was terrifying then too. I didn't know that. You weren't there. The words weren't accusatory this time, just a statement of fact that hung between them. I'm here now, Eleanor said quietly. Olivia nodded and stepped back, wiping her eyes. Thank you for coming. A doctor appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Mr. and Mrs. Peterson. Tom and Olivia immediately moved toward him. Eleanor hung back, uncertain of her place, but Tom gestured for her to join them. We've confirmed pneumonia in the lower left lung, the doctor explained. We need to admit Grace for IV antibiotics and monitoring. For how long? Tom asked. At least 2 to 3 days, possibly longer depending on how she responds to treatment. Olivia paled. Our insurance only covers 80% of hospitalization after the deductible, which we haven't met yet this year. The doctor's expression was sympathetic, but professional. I understand financial concerns, but with pneumonia at her age, outpatient treatment isn't advisable. Of course she needs to stay, Tom said quickly. We'll figure out the money somehow. There may be assistance programs, the doctor began. That won't be necessary, Eleanor interrupted. Grace will have a private room with full care coverage. 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. Eleanor, Olivia started, a warning in her voice. This isn't negotiable, Eleanor said firmly. She's my granddaughter. The doctor looked between them, sensing the tension. I'll let you discuss this. In the meantime, we're preparing a room for Grace in pediatrics. After he left, Olivia turned to Eleanor. We can't accept that. You can and you will, Eleanor replied, keeping her voice low with a glance toward the children. This isn't about pride or boundaries. It's about Grace's health. We can handle it, Tom insisted, though his face betrayed his worry. At what cost? Draining your savings, taking on debt, delaying Emma's education, missing mortgage payments again. That's not fair, Olivia said. Neither is making this about our issues when Grace needs the best care available. Eleanor softened her tone. Please, Olivia, let me do this one thing. Tom and Olivia exchanged a long look, some silent communication passing between them. Just the medical bills. Tom finally said nothing extra, nothing showy. Eleanor nodded, relief washing through her. Agreed. A nurse appeared. You can see Grace now. She's been moved to room 412. Emma, who had been pretending not to listen, stood up. Is Grace going to be okay? Yes, honey, Olivia assured her. She needs to stay in the hospital for a few days to get better. Can we see her for a little while? Then Dad will take you and Liam home to sleep. I can stay with the children, Eleanor offered, if you both want to remain here. Another surprised look from Tom and Olivia. Do you know how to make school lunches? Tom asked, only half joking. I can learn, Eleanor replied with complete seriousness. We'll figure it out later, Olivia decided. Let's see Grace first. Grace looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, her dark curls stark against the white pillowcase. And the fourth line snaked from her arm, and a monitoring clip was attached to her finger. Despite this, she managed a weak smile when she saw them. "Mommy, Daddy," she whispered. Then her eyes widened. "Grandma came too." "Of course I did," Eleanor said, moving to the bedside. "I heard you weren't feeling well. My chest hurts," Grace confided, "and the doctor stuck me with a needle." "That was very brave of you," Eleanor told her. "Are you staying?" Eleanor glanced at Olivia, who gave a small nod. "Yes, for a while." While Olivia and Tom spoke with the night nurse about medication schedules, Eleanor sat beside Grace's bed, gently stroking her forehead. "Would you like me to tell you a story?" she asked. Grace nodded, her eyelids already heavy with medication. "Once there was a little girl who lived in a house on a hill." Eleanor began reaching back to stories she hadn't thought of in decades. She had a special unicorn friend who could turn invisible whenever grown-ups were around. By the time she finished the impromptu tale, Grace had drifted to sleep, her breathing labored but steady. "I'll take the kids home," Tom said, lifting the still sleeping Liam. "Emma, say goodnight to your grandmother." Emma gave Eleanor an unexpected hug. "Thanks for coming," she whispered. "Mom was really scared." "That's what family does," Eleanor replied. "We show up when it matters." After they left, Olivia sank into the chair on the opposite side of Grace's bed. "You don't have to stay all night." "I'd like to, if you don't mind the company." Olivia shrugged, too exhausted to argue. "It's going to be uncomfortable. I've had board meetings that lasted 36 hours during hostile takeovers. I can handle an uncomfortable chair." A ghost of a smile touched Olivia's lips. "This is somewhat different." "Yes," Eleanor agreed, watching Grace's chest rise and fall. "This actually matters." They sat in silence for a while. The only sounds, the beeping of monitors and the occasional squeak of nurses' shoes in the hallway. "She asked for you, you know," Olivia said suddenly. "When she was feverish at home, she wanted her grandma." Eleanor's throat tightened. "I'm glad I could be here." "I thought about calling you during her first pneumonia episode," Olivia admitted. "She was only 6 months old. The doctors said it was touch and go for a while." "Why didn't you?" "Pride, anger, fear, you'd say no." "I would have come," Eleanor said softly. "Would you?" "Really?" "Yes." The simple answer hung between them: regret for what might have been, hope for what still could be. "Get some rest if you can," Eleanor said. "I'll watch her." To her surprise, Olivia didn't protest but leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. "Wake me if anything changes." "I will." As Olivia drifted into exhausted sleep, Eleanor maintained her vigil, one hand resting lightly on Grace's small fingers, the other reaching across the bed toward her slumbering daughter. For the first time in 15 years, both were within her reach. Dawn broke over the hospital room, painting the sterile walls with soft golden light. Eleanor blinked awake, momentarily disoriented by the beeping monitors and antiseptic smell. Grace still slept, her breathing less labored than the night before. Olivia's chair was empty. Eleanor stretched, working out the kinks from a night spent in hospital furniture. Her normally immaculate appearance was rumpled, her makeup long since worn away. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been seen in public looking so human. The door opened, and Tom entered carrying a tray of coffee cups. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering one to Eleanor. "Olivia's talking to the doctor." "Thank you." She accepted the cup gratefully. "How are Emma and Liam?" "My mother's with them. They'll visit after school." Tom settled into Olivia's vacant chair. "You stayed all night." It wasn't a question, but Eleanor answered anyway. "Of course, the Eleanor Sinclair I've heard about for years doesn't do hospital vigils. Perhaps you haven't heard the complete story." Tom studied her over his coffee cup. "Maybe not." They sat in companionable silence, watching Grace's chest rise and fall beneath the thin hospital blanket. "I spoke with the billing department this morning," Tom said finally. "They said everything's been taken care of. Private room, specialists, the works." Eleanor nodded. "Good." They also mentioned something about a substantial donation to the pediatric wing. Eleanor kept her expression neutral. "Is that so?" "That Sounds suspiciously like a grand gesture, Eleanor. The donation was made anonymously, but it was you. She met his gaze directly. The pediatric wing was underfunded. It's a worthwhile cause, regardless of our personal situation, and the timing is just coincidental. Perhaps I was inspired by recent events. Tom shook his head, but there was more resignation than anger in the gesture. Do you always get your way? Usually, Eleanor admitted, though less often lately. The door opened again, and Olivia entered with a worried expression that shifted to suspicion when she saw Tom and Eleanor's serious faces. What's going on? She asked. Your mother has been expanding her philanthropic portfolio, Tom said dryly. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Meaning the hospital suddenly received an anonymous donation earmarked for pediatric care improvements. It wasn't anonymous to make a statement, Eleanor interjected. It was anonymous to avoid precisely this reaction. What reaction did you expect when you throw money around like this? Olivia demanded, though she kept her voice low to avoid waking Grace. Gratitude, appreciation, understanding that I'm trying to help in the only way I know how. By buying your way into our lives. The accusation stung. That's not what this is, isn't it? Olivia crossed her arms. First our mortgage, now Grace's medical bills. Next what? College funds, wedding presents. Where does it end, Mother? I'm trying to take care of my family. We were taking care of ourselves just fine before. You showed up, were you? Eleanor challenged, rising from her chair, working multiple jobs, struggling to make mortgage payments, putting off Emma's dreams because of financial constraints. That's called real life, Olivia shot back. Something you've insulated yourself from with wealth and privilege. I worked for everything I have, and we don't. Tom teaches all day and tutors at night. I work hospital shifts while studying. We're doing our best. I never suggested otherwise. But why struggle when I can help? Because your help always comes with strings. What strings have I attached to anything? The house is in your name. The medical bills are paid with no conditions. I've respected every boundary you've set. Their voices had risen despite their efforts, and Grace stirred in the hospital bed. All three adults immediately fell silent, watching anxiously until the child settled again. Let's take this outside, Tom suggested quietly. In the sterile hallway, beneath fluorescent lights that highlighted the exhaustion on all their faces, the confrontation continued in hushed, intense tones. You're manipulating us, Olivia accused. Creating situations where we have to accept your help, your presence, your control. That's not true, Eleanor protested. I'm offering assistance because I can, not to control you. Then why not ask first? Why make these unilateral decisions about our lives? Would you have accepted if I'd asked? Olivia's silence was answer. Enough, that's why, Eleanor said softly. Pride would have prevented you from accepting help you desperately needed. Don't confuse pride with self-respect, Tom interjected. We've built our life on our own terms. That matters to us. Eleanor looked between them, frustration mounting. I understand independence. I built an empire by myself after your father died. But there's a difference between independence and needless struggle. The struggle is part of building something real, Olivia argued. You can't just shortcut your way into our lives with your checkbook. Is that what you think I'm doing? Using money as a shortcut, aren't you? The question hung between them, uncomfortably perceptive. Perhaps partly, Eleanor admitted after a long moment. But not for the reasons you think. Not to control you or buy affection. Then why? Because it's the only thing I have to offer that has any value. The words burst from Eleanor with unexpected emotion. I wasn't there for 10 years. I can't get that time back. I missed Emma's birth, Liam's first steps, Grace's baby smiles. I missed your graduation, your wedding, all the moments that actually matter. Money is the only thing I have that might make any difference now. The raw honesty silenced both Olivia and Tom. I know it doesn't fix anything, Eleanor continued more quietly. I know it doesn't make up for my absence. But it's something I can do while I learn how to be a mother again. A grandmother, Eleanor, Tom began, his voice gentler than before. She raised a hand to stop him. I'm not asking for forgiveness or even understanding. I'm just asking you to believe that my intentions are genuine, even if my methods are flawed. Before either could respond, a nurse appeared in the hallway. Miss Sinclair, there's a call for you at the nurse's station. Someone named Ruth. She says it's urgent. Eleanor hesitated, glancing at Olivia. Go, Olivia said. We'll be here. At the nurse's station, Eleanor took the call with growing concern as Ruth outlined a developing crisis at Sinclair Enterprises, a potential hostile takeover attempt that required immediate attention. The board is assembling, Ruth concluded. They're expecting you within the hour. Eleanor glanced back toward Grace's room. I can't leave right now, Miss Sinclair. With all due respect, this is the future of your company at stake. I understand that, Ruth, but my granddaughter is ill. Silence on the other end. Should I inform the board you're unavailable? The question hung in the air, a moment of decision between the empire she'd built and the family she was trying to rebuild. Tell them I'll call in, Eleanor decided. Set up a video conference from my tablet. I'll handle it remotely. From the hospital. Ruth sounded scandalized. Yes, from the hospital. Eleanor's tone brooked no argument. My priorities have changed, Ruth. The board will need to adjust. She ended the call and returned to Grace's room, where she found Tom alone with their sleeping granddaughter. Everything okay? He asked. A work situation, Eleanor explained. I'll need to handle it remotely. Tom's eyebrows rose. You're not rushing off to the office? No. The simple answer seemed to affect Tom more deeply than all their previous discussions. Olivia went to get fresh clothes, he said after a moment. She'll be back soon. Eleanor nodded and resumed her seat beside Grace's bed. For what it's worth, Tom said hesitantly, I think your intentions are genuine. Thank you. But Olivia needs more than good intentions. She needs to know you're here for the long haul, not just when it's convenient or when you can solve problems with your checkbook. I'm trying to show her that. I know. Tom smiled slightly. Staying all night was a good start. Choosing to handle your work crisis from here instead of leaving, even better. Baby steps, Eleanor murmured. Exactly. Tom stood, stretching. I'm going to find some breakfast. Can I bring you anything? I'm fine, thank you. Alone with Grace, Eleanor gently brushed a curl from the child's forehead. We're all trying, she whispered. Some of us are just learning later than others. Grace improved steadily over the next 2 days, her natural resilience aided by antibiotics and excellent care. Eleanor divided her time between the hospital and her necessary corporate obligations, always returning to Grace's bedside in the evenings. The routine established a strange détente between her and Olivia, not quite reconciliation, but a shared purpose that transcended their conflicts. On the third morning, as Grace napped peacefully, Eleanor arrived with a polished wooden box tucked under her arm. What's that? Tom asked, looking up from his grating. Something I should have shared a long time ago, Eleanor replied, setting the box on the bedside table. Is Olivia here? She went to shower and change. She should be back soon. Eleanor nodded, studying Grace's sleeping form. The child's color had improved dramatically, and her breathing had returned to normal. The doctor says she might be released tomorrow. That's the plan, Tom confirmed. We're grateful for all you've done. I'm her grandmother. It's what family does. Tom studied her for a moment. You know, when Olivia described you over the years, family-oriented wasn't one of the adjectives she used. I'm sure it wasn't, Eleanor said with a sad smile. I gave her little reason to think otherwise. People can change. So I'm learning. The door opened, and Olivia entered, her damp hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked younger, more vulnerable, without her usual composure, more like the daughter Eleanor remembered. The doctor's optimistic, she said by way of greeting. Grace's latest labs show improvement. That's wonderful news, Eleanor said. Olivia's eyes fell on the wooden box. What's that? Something I'd like you to have. Eleanor pushed the box toward her. When you're ready. Olivia approached warily. What is it? Letters. Eleanor's voice softened. One for each year we were apart. I wrote them on your birthday, though I never sent them. Olivia's expression froze. You wrote to me every year. Why didn't you send them? At first, because you asked me not to contact you later. I suppose I was afraid of rejection. Or perhaps I couldn't bear to confront what I'd lost. Olivia touched the box hesitantly, as if it might bite. And you're giving them to me now. Because ... Because life is unpredictable, Eleanor said, glancing at Grace. Because regret is a poor companion in times of crisis. Because you deserve to know the truth, even if it comes too late. The truth about what? About how much I missed you, how much I regretted the choices I made, how proud I've been of you, even from a distance. Olivia's fingers trembled slightly as they rested on the box's polished surface. I don't know if I want to read these. That's your choice. I'll understand either way. Tom cleared his throat. I should check on Emma and Liam, he said, sensing the women needed privacy. Call me if anything changes. After he left, silence filled the room, broken only by Grace's soft breathing and the muted hospital sounds from the hallway. I kept a scrapbook, Olivia said suddenly. News clippings about Sinclair Enterprises. About you. Eleanor looked up, startled. You did? I told myself it was to remind me of what I didn't want to become. Olivia's laugh held no humor. But I read every article, followed every business move, felt a strange pride when you succeeded, even as I resented you for it. I had no idea. How could you? I made sure you wouldn't. Olivia finally opened the box. Inside lay 10 sealed envelopes, each labeled with a year. She lifted the first one, turning it in her hands. I'm not sure I'm ready for this. Take your time, Eleanor said. They've waited this long. Olivia replaced the letter and closed the box. I'll read them when Grace is home, when things are ... more settled, of course. Grace stirred in the hospital bed, her eyes fluttering. Open, Mommy, Grandma, we're here, sweetheart, Olivia said, immediately moving to her daughter's side. Can I have pudding? Eleanor smiled. I believe that can be arranged. While Olivia helped Grace sit up, Eleanor slipped out to the nurse's station to request pudding. When she returned, Olivia was telling Grace a story about a princess who built magical castles, an echo of the tales Eleanor had once told Olivia. And then what happened? Grace asked, eyes wide. Then the princess realized her most magical castle was empty, because she'd forgotten to fill it with people who loved her. Olivia continued, her eyes meeting Eleanor's over Grace's head. That's sad, Grace commented. Yes, but the story isn't over, Olivia said. The princess discovered it's never too late to invite people in. Eleanor stood frozen in the doorway, the pudding cup forgotten in her hand. Like Grandma coming to our house? Grace asked with a child's perfect insight. Olivia nodded slowly. Something like that. Later that evening, after Grace had fallen asleep, and Tom had taken Emma and Liam home for the night, Olivia and Eleanor sat in the dim light of the hospital room, the wooden box between them on Grace's bed. I opened the first one, Olivia admitted. Eleanor's heart skipped. And you were in Paris on my 20th birthday. You wrote that you saw a girl with my smile in the Louvre, and nearly called me before remembering I'd asked you not to. I remember writing that, Eleanor said softly. I still see you in strangers sometimes. A gesture, a laugh, a certain way of tilting the head. You wrote that you hoped I was happy, even if it meant being happy without you. I meant it, did you? Olivia's voice held no accusation, only genuine curiosity. Were you really willing to let me go if that's what I needed? Not willing, Eleanor corrected. But prepared to, for your sake. Olivia opened the box again, running her fingers over the remaining sealed envelopes. 10 years of thoughts, of moments we could have shared but didn't. I can't change the past, Eleanor said. I can only offer the present, and perhaps a different future. I've been angry for so long, Olivia confessed. It became comfortable, familiar. Letting it go feels ... dangerous. It is, Eleanor agreed. Trust always is. Olivia selected another envelope, the one from 5 years ago. This would have been around when Grace was born, yes. Olivia hesitated, then broke the seal. Her eyes moved across the page, growing damp as she read. I wonder what kind of mother you are, she quoted softly. Better than I was, I hope. Warmer, more present. I dream sometimes of a little child with your eyes and your father's smile. And I wake up aching with the knowledge that I might never know them. Olivia looked up, tears spilling onto her cheeks. You dreamed about my children. Often, Eleanor admitted. I always wondered what they might be like. And now you know. Now I know, Eleanor echoed. And they're more wonderful than I ever imagined. Olivia carefully refolded the letter. I need time to read these, to process what they mean. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere this time, Grace murmured in her sleep, drawing both women's attention. In the peaceful face of the child they both loved, they found a moment of silent understanding, not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of a path that might lead there. Eleanor stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, staring at the city sprawled before her. 2 weeks had passed since Grace's release from the hospital. 2 weeks of polite text messages and brief phone calls, but no invitation. To Sunday dinner, the family was regrouping, processing. She understood that, respected it, even as she felt the renewed distance acutely. The wooden box of letters was now in Olivia's possession. Whether she had read more of them, Eleanor didn't know. Some truths took time to absorb. Ms. Sinclair. Ruth appeared in the doorway. The lawyers are ready for you. Eleanor nodded, straightening her jacket. Send them in. 3 attorneys entered her office, carrying folders and tablets. Her most trusted legal advisors, summoned for a project unlike any they'd handled before. Thank you all for coming, Eleanor said, gesturing toward the conference table. Let's begin. For the next 2 hours, they reviewed documents, debated clauses, and refined language. What had begun as a simple idea during Grace's hospitalization had evolved into something more substantial, a foundation, with a clear mission and significant resources. So, to summarize, her lead counsel said, the Sinclair Family Foundation will provide medical assistance to families with inadequate insurance, with an emphasis on pediatric care. Initial funding will be $50 million, with an additional $10 million annually. Correct, Eleanor confirmed. I want particular attention paid to emergency care and extended hospitalization. Coverage situations where families might otherwise face financial ruin. And the governance structure. You'll serve as chairperson, with additional board members. To be determined. Yes, though I'd like to keep the board relatively small and focused. People with medical backgrounds, financial expertise, and direct experience with healthcare disparities. Not the usual society names, then, her second attorney asked, surprised. No, Eleanor said firmly. This isn't about social connections or corporate networking. It's about effective assistance to families in crisis. The lawyers exchanged glances. This was a departure from Eleanor's usual approach to philanthropy, which had historically aligned with business interests and high-profile causes. One final matter, Eleanor continued. I'd like a special provision for educational grants to children who have experienced medical hardships, art programs, science camps, specialized training opportunities that might otherwise be sacrificed to cover medical bills. Ruth, who had been taking notes silently, looked up with sudden understanding. This wasn't just about Grace's pneumonia. This was about Emma's art program too. Will you be announcing the foundation at the Sinclair Enterprises quarterly shareholders meeting? The third lawyer asked. No, Eleanor decided. I'd prefer a low-key launch. The work matters more than the publicity. Another surprised glance between the lawyers. Eleanor Sinclair, eschewing a public relations opportunity, will have the final documents prepared by tomorrow, her lead counsel promised, gathering his materials. Congratulations, Ms. Sinclair. This is quite an undertaking. After they departed, Ruth lingered, tablet in hand. Is there anything else you need? Eleanor hesitated. Has there been any message from the Petersons? No, Mum. Not since yesterday's text about Grace's follow-up appointment. Eleanor nodded, masking her disappointment. Thank you, Ruth. Instead of leaving, Ruth shifted uncomfortably. May I speak frankly, Miss Sinclair? Of course. I've worked for you for 15 years, and I've never seen you like this. Like what? Distracted, uncertain. Ruth paused. Human, Eleanor smiled faintly. Is that a compliment or a criticism? Neither, just an observation. Ruth hesitated again. The board is concerned about your recent decisions. The affordable housing project, turning down the Singapore acquisition, and now this foundation with no clear business benefit. The board can be concerned, Eleanor said dismissively. I still hold controlling interest. Yes, but there are whispers about your focus being divided. Some are suggesting it might be time for new leadership. Eleanor's expression hardened. Let them whisper. Sinclair Enterprises remains profitable and ethically sound. If some board members can't reconcile those two conditions, perhaps they should reconsider their positions. Ruth nodded, recognizing the steel beneath the softer exterior her boss had displayed recently. I'll keep you informed of any developments. After Ruth departed, Eleanor returned to the window, her thoughts drifting back to the Peterson family. Had she pushed too hard, expected too much, too soon? The foundation was partially inspired by their situation, yet she'd designed it without their input, another unilateral decision. Her phone chimed with a text message. Olivia's name appeared on the screen, sending a surge of anticipation through her. Grace has art hanging in the school display. She asked if you'd come see it. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. if you're available. Not Sunday dinner, but an invitation nonetheless. Progress. Eleanor typed her reply immediately. I'll be there, thank you. She set down the phone, emotions she'd long suppressed bubbling to the surface. 15 years ago, after Robert's death, she'd channeled her grief into building an empire. Now, she was learning to build something far more challenging, a relationship with the family she'd neglected. Her intercom buzzed. Ms. Sinclair, your 4 o'clock is here. The medical advisory panel for the foundation. Send them in. Eleanor moved toward the conference room with renewed purpose. The foundation wouldn't erase past mistakes, but it might create future opportunities, not just for her family, but for many families facing similar struggles. As she greeted the assembled medical experts, pediatricians, hospital administrators, patient advocates, Eleanor felt a strange sense of alignment. For the first time in her career, her business acumen and her personal values were working in concert rather than opposition. Thank you all for coming, she began. The Sinclair Family Foundation has a simple mission, ensuring that no family has to choose between medical care and financial stability. A pediatric oncologist raised his hand. That's an ambitious goal, Miss Sinclair. What inspired it? Eleanor thought of Grace in her hospital bed, of Olivia's worry about medical bills, of her own helplessness in the face of her granddaughter's illness. Family, she said simply, and the recognition that healthcare should be a right, not a privilege determined by economic status. Well, it's a worthy cause, the oncologist replied, and frankly a surprising one coming from someone with your business reputation. Reputations can change, Eleanor said. When we know better, we do better. The meeting proceeded efficiently, with the experts providing insights on the most critical gaps in the healthcare system and how the foundation might address them effectively. Eleanor listened intently, asking questions that revealed her growing understanding of the human cost behind the financial statistics. 3 hours later, as the advisors departed with clear action items, Ruth appeared with a look of concern. The board chair is insisting on a meeting tomorrow morning. About your recent direction. Eleanor checked her calendar. The school art display is at 3 p.m. Schedule the board for 10 a.m. We should be finished in plenty of time. And if they present an ultimatum? Ruth asked cautiously. There are rumors they might. Eleanor's expression remained serene. Then they'll discover that while my priorities have evolved, my resolve has not. Later that evening, alone in her penthouse, Eleanor found herself doing something she hadn't done in years, writing in a journal. Not business notes or strategic plans, but personal reflections. Today I began something new, she wrote. Not for profit or prestige, but because it matters. Because Grace matters. Because Emma's art matters. Because families struggling as the Petersons have struggled matter. Robert would approve, I think. He always said success without purpose was an empty achievement. It took me 15 years and the eyes of 3 children I never knew to understand what he meant. Tomorrow I'll see Grace's artwork. A small step, perhaps, but in the right direction. Toward what, I'm not entirely sure. Forgiveness, reconciliation, or simply a different kind of life than the one I've been living. Whatever comes, I'm ready. She closed the journal and placed it beside the single photograph of Robert. For the first time in years, She felt his presence not as an absence to be mourned, but as a legacy to be honored. "We're finding our way back," she told his smiling image. Slowly, but surely. The elementary school hallway buzzed with activity, as parents and grandparents examined artwork displayed on brightly colored bulletin boards. Eleanor moved through the crowd with uncharacteristic uncertainty, searching for Grace's contribution among the kindergarten section. "Grandma, over here." Grace's voice cut through the noise, and Eleanor turned to see her granddaughter waving enthusiastically from beside a display of paintings. The child looked fully recovered from her illness, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Hello, sweetheart," Eleanor said, making her way over. "Where is your masterpiece?" "Right here." Grace pointed proudly to a watercolor painting of a unicorn standing beside what appeared to be a skyscraper. "It's glimmer visiting your building." Eleanor studied the artwork with genuine appreciation. For a 5-year-old, the proportions were remarkably good, and Grace had attempted to capture the distinctive architecture of Sinclair Tower with surprising accuracy. "It's wonderful," Eleanor said. "You have a great eye for detail." "Emma helped me with the building part," Grace admitted. "But I did the unicorn all by myself." "A successful collaboration then." "That means working together," Grace informed her solemnly. "Dad taught me that word." "He's absolutely right." Eleanor glanced around. "Where are your parents and siblings?" "Mom's coming later, she had to work. Dad's with Liam at the science display. Emma's art is in the big kids' hall. Perhaps we should find them." Grace slipped her small hand into Eleanor. "This way. I know a shortcut." The simple gesture, her granddaughter's hand in hers, sent a wave of emotion through Eleanor. She allowed herself to be led through the school corridors, listening as Grace provided running commentary on classroom locations and playground politics. They found Tom and Liam examining a display of model ecosystems. "Look who I found," Grace announced. Tom looked up, nodding in greeting. "Eleanor, glad you could make it. Thank you for the invitation." She turned to Liam. "Which one is yours?" He pointed to a shoebox diorama of a desert ecosystem, complete with carefully crafted cacti and tiny lizards. "I got an A-. The minus is because my son was too big." "Artistic license," Eleanor suggested. "Sometimes scientific accuracy must be balanced with creative vision." Liam grinned. "That's what I said." "Where's Emma's display?" Eleanor asked. "8th grade hallway," Tom replied. "She's been waiting for you actually. Said she had something to show you specifically." Curiosity piqued, Eleanor followed the family to the older students' art display. Emma stood beside her work, uncharacteristically nervous, watching the entrance. When she spotted Eleanor, she straightened. "You came." "Of course I did. Come see mine." Emma led her to a large, matted drawing, prominently displayed in the center of the board. Eleanor's breath caught as she recognized the subject, detailed architectural rendering of a building that existed only in conversation. "You designed it," Emma explained quietly. "Remember, when we were talking about perspective that first night at dinner, you described your dream project, the one with the garden terraces and the glass bridge between towers." Eleanor remembered a passing comment about a concept she'd abandoned years ago, when practical concerns overrode creative ambition. "Emma," she breathed, "this is extraordinary," and it was. The teenager had captured not just the physical description, but the spirit of the design, the balance between functionality and beauty, strength and grace. "My art teacher says I should consider architecture," Emma said, watching Eleanor's reaction carefully. "She thinks I have an aptitude for it." "I believe she's right." Emma hesitated. "Would that bother you if I went into your field?" "Bother me, Emma? I'd be honored." Eleanor studied the drawing more closely. "You've improved on my concept in several ways. The structural support for the bridge is more elegant than what I had imagined." Emma's face lit up with pride. "Really? Absolutely. You have a natural talent." A voice cut through their conversation. "There you all are." Olivia approached, still in her nurse's scrubs, looking tired but pleased. "Sorry I'm late. Had to finish charting." "Mom," Grace exclaimed. "Grandma likes my unicorn tower." "I'm sure she does." Olivia's eyes met Eleanor's briefly, before turning to Emma's drawing. "Oh, it looks even better mounted and displayed properly." "Grandma says I improved on her design," Emma reported, her usual cool demeanor softened by pride. High praise indeed, Olivia noted, with a glance at Eleanor. Your grandmother doesn't offer compliments lightly, only when they're earned. Eleanor confirmed. A subtle acknowledgement passed between them, something healing in their shared appreciation of Emma's talent. I have news, Olivia said, addressing everyone. Dr. Matthews called. Grace's follow-up. Tests are clear. No lingering effects from the pneumonia. That's wonderful, Eleanor said, relief washing through her. We thought we might celebrate, Tom added. Perhaps dinner tomorrow, Sunday tradition. The casual invitation carried significant weight. After 2 weeks of careful distance, they were reopening their home, their tradition. I'd like that very much, Eleanor said, careful to keep her tone measured despite her inner elation. Good, Olivia said. 5 o'clock, as usual. As they moved through the remaining displays, Eleanor found herself walking beside Olivia, slightly separated from Tom and the children. I read another letter, Olivia said quietly, eyes forward. The one from my 25th birthday. Eleanor remembered that one, well written, during a particularly difficult period of loneliness. And you wrote about regret, about how success felt hollow without family to share it with. I meant every word, I know. That's what makes it hard. Olivia glanced at her. It would be easier if you were the cold, career-obsessed villain I've painted you as all these years. I was that villain in many ways, Eleanor admitted. Just not in the ways that mattered most to me. The foundation, Olivia said, changing subjects abruptly. Ruth called me about it. Eleanor frowned. She shouldn't have done that without my permission. Actually, she was doing exactly what you asked. Looking for board members with medical experience and direct knowledge of healthcare disparities. Olivia's lips quirked upward. Apparently I qualify. Eleanor stopped walking. She invited you to join the board. She did. I haven't given her an answer yet. And what answer are you considering? Olivia studied her for a moment. I'm considering. Yes. The simple statement carried layers of meaning: acceptance, collaboration, a willingness to build something together. The foundation isn't a manipulation, Eleanor felt compelled to clarify. It's not about you or us. It just, happened to be inspired by recent events. I know. Ruth shared the mission statement and preliminary plans. It's genuinely good work, Mother. Work that could help many families like ours. Then you'll join the board. I will, with one condition. Name it: that you understand this is a professional relationship, separate from our personal one. The foundation is your vision. I'll contribute my expertise, but our family reconciliation is a different process entirely. Eleanor nodded, recognizing the boundary, understood and agreed. They resumed walking, following the children who had moved ahead to another display. Emma's quite talented, Eleanor observed. She is, Olivia agreed. She talks about you constantly now. Your buildings, your design background. It's all Grandma said and Grandma designed. Does that bother you? Olivia considered the question. It did at first. Now, I'm just glad she has someone who understands that part of her. Tom and I try, but it's not our world. She's remarkable. They all are. Yes, Olivia said softly. They are. As the art show wound down, the family gathered at the exit. Grace insisted on walking with Eleanor to her car, chattering about unicorns and tall buildings, and how she might design a skyscraper with a special unicorn elevator when she grew up. That sounds like an excellent innovation, Eleanor assured her. At the parking lot, Grace hugged her impulsively. See you tomorrow, Grandma. Tomorrow, Eleanor confirmed, returning the embrace. As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror at the family standing together on the sidewalk, Tom's arm around Olivia, Liam gesturing animatedly about something, Emma scrolling on her phone but leaning slightly into her mother's side, Grace waving enthusiastically. Her family. Not fully reconciled, not completely healed, but no longer entirely separate from her life. Small steps toward home. Snow fell in gentle flurries outside the Peterson home, coating the neighborhood in pristine white. Inside, warmth radiated from more than just the crackling fireplace. Christmas Eve had transformed the modest house with twinkling lights, evergreen garlands, and the rich aroma of Tom's holiday cooking. Eleanor adjusted the bow on her final gift, a modest package containing a first edition copy of A Christmas Carol for Tom, who had mentioned his love for Dickens. She'd been meticulous about respecting the gift boundaries Olivia had established. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that might overshadow the parents' presents to their children. The past 2 months had brought gradual but steady progress. Sunday dinners had become a genuine tradition. Olivia had taken her position on the foundation board seriously, contributing valuable insights from her nursing experience. Eleanor had attended Grace's kindergarten play as a talking tree. Grace had indeed improvised several botanical facts, Liam's science fair, and Emma's fall art showcase. Small steps, accumulating like the snowflakes outside. "Grandma, you're off." Under the mistletoe, Grace called, pointing above Eleanor's head as she entered the living room. Eleanor looked up to find a small sprig of green dangling from the doorframe. "So I am. That means kisses," Grace informed her solemnly. "It's the rule." Before Eleanor could respond, Grace planted a sticky candy cane kiss on her cheek. "Consider me properly welcomed," Eleanor laughed, wiping a streak of peppermint from her face. The living room had been transformed for the holiday. A modest tree stood in the corner, decorated with an eclectic mix of handmade ornaments and family keepsakes. Stockings hung from the mantel, including, Eleanor noted with surprise, one embroidered with her name. "We added yours last week," Emma explained, catching her gaze. Grace insisted, "That was very thoughtful." "Mom did the embroidery," Emma added. "She stayed up late working on it." The information settled warmly in Eleanor's chest. Olivia had taken the time to create something personal for her, something that symbolically included her in the family tradition. Tom emerged from the kitchen, an apron protecting his holiday sweater. "Dinner in 30 minutes. Everything's on schedule." "Can I give Grandma her pre-Christmas present now?" Grace asked, bouncing on her toes. "Pre-Christmas?" Eleanor inquired. "It's a Peterson tradition," Liam explained. "Everyone gets one present on Christmas Eve. The rest are for tomorrow morning." "I wasn't aware," Eleanor said, concerned she'd violated another unwritten rule. "I only brought gifts for tomorrow." "Don't worry," Tom assured her. "We've got you covered." Olivia appeared from upstairs, carrying a small wrapped package. "This one's from all of us." Eleanor accepted the gift, feeling unexpectedly emotional at this inclusion in their family ritual. "Should I open it now?" "Yes." Grace clapped her hands. Open it, carefully." Eleanor unwrapped the package to reveal a hinged silver frame. Inside were 2 photographs. On the left, Robert holding infant Olivia. On the right, Eleanor with Grace on her lap during a recent Sunday dinner, both laughing at something off camera. "Tom took that one," Olivia explained softly. "I found the other in my old photo album." The juxtaposition was striking. The past and present connected across decades. "A circle completing mix perfect," Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. Now you give someone their pre-Christmas present," Grace instructed. Eleanor hesitated. "I don't have, actually," Tom interjected. "I think Eleanor might have something for all of us, even if she didn't know about the tradition." He exchanged a meaningful glance with his wife. Eleanor looked between them, puzzled. "Ruth called," Olivia explained. "She mentioned you've been working on something, significant." Eleanor frowned. Ruth's communication with Olivia about foundation matters was expected, but this seemed beyond professional boundaries. "What exactly did she tell you?" "Just that you've been working on a special project. Something about clearing debt." Eleanor sighed. "I'd hoped to approach this differently." "Approach what?" Emma asked, suddenly attentive. Eleanor set down the frame carefully. "I've been working on a financial proposal for your family. Not a gift exactly, but an opportunity. I wanted to present it properly after the holidays." "What kind of opportunity?" Tom asked, his tone careful. "A comprehensive one," Eleanor admitted. "Addressing your outstanding medical bills, student loans, credit card debt, and establishing education funds for the children." Silence fell over the room, broken only by the soft crackle of the fireplace. "How do you even know about our debts?" Olivia asked quietly. "I hired financial advisors to assess your situation," Eleanor said, then winced at how it sounded. That was presumptuous, I realize now. Yes, it was, Tom agreed, but without heat. Though not entirely surprising, given your methods. I'm not trying to control your lives, Eleanor said. The proposal includes options, not mandates. Full debt clearance or restructuring. Education funds the children can access at 18 with no strings attached. It would be your decision how much or how little to accept. That sounds like a pretty grand gesture to me, Olivia observed, echoing her earlier bump recently. Is, Eleanor acknowledged, but not an impulsive one. I've thought carefully about how to help without undermining your independence. And this is your pre-Christmas present? Emma asked skeptically. Paying off our debts. Put that way, it did sound coldly transactional. Eleanor felt a familiar sinking sensation, another misstep in her attempts to reconnect. It was a miscalculation, she admitted. I apologize. To her surprise, Tom laughed. You know, most people bring a bottle of wine to Christmas dinner. You bring a financial restructuring plan. His tone held more amusement than criticism, easing the tension slightly. Mom, Grace's small voice interrupted. Why are you crying? All eyes turned to Olivia, who was indeed wiping away tears. I'm not sad, honey, she assured her daughter. Just overwhelmed, because Grandma wants to help with the money problems. The innocent question hung in the air, revealing what the adults had tried to shield from the children. You know about those? Tom asked gently. Grace nodded. I heard you and Mom talking when you thought I was asleep. About the hospital bills and Emma's art school and the roof needing fixing. Olivia and Tom exchanged pained glances. We're fine, sweetheart, Olivia assured her. Your dad and I have everything under control. But last night you were crying about the bills. Grace persisted. I saw you. The simple observation landed like a stone in still water. Olivia's composure faltered momentarily. Sometimes grown-ups worry about things, she explained. But that doesn't mean you need to worry too. Eleanor watched the exchange. With growing understanding, pride had prevented Olivia and Tom from admitting the extent of their financial struggles, even as those struggles had become visible to their youngest child. Perhaps, she suggested carefully, we could discuss the proposal another time, after the holidays. Yes, Tom agreed, clearly relieved. Let's focus on celebrating tonight. As the family moved toward the dining room, Eleanor held back, catching Olivia's arm gently. I truly didn't mean to overstep, she said quietly. Olivia sighed. I know, and truthfully, we do need help. We're drowning in medical debt from Grace's hospitalization. Even with your foundation's assistance, the insurance covered less than expected. Then why not let me help? Not as a controlling gesture, but as family supporting family. Because accepting feels like failing, Olivia admitted. Like proving I can't provide for my children without your money. Accepting help isn't failure, Eleanor said. I've learned that recently myself. Olivia studied her mother's face. Have you? Yes. Accepting that I needed you in my life, that I couldn't simply buy my way back into your good graces. That was a hard lesson in humility. A small smile touched Olivia's lips. I suppose we're both still learning. From the dining room, Grace called, Mom, Grandma. The turkey's getting cold. We're coming, Olivia called back. Then, to Eleanor, we'll talk about your proposal after Christmas, as a family. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. Another small step forward. Merry Christmas, Olivia, Eleanor said. Merry Christmas, Mom. The word unused for so many years was the greatest gift Eleanor could have received. 3 days after Christmas, Eleanor arrived at the Peterson home, carrying a slim leather portfolio rather than her usual tote bag of modest gifts. The holiday decorations remained, but the atmosphere had shifted from celebration to serious consideration. Tom greeted her at the door. The kids are at my mother's for the day. We thought it best to have this conversation privately. Eleanor nodded, appreciating the foresight, a wise decision. In the living room, Olivia sat at the dining table, a spread of papers before her, bills, statements, and what appeared to be their own financial calculations. Her expression was determinedly neutral, neither welcoming nor rejecting. Would you like coffee? Tom offered. Please, Eleanor replied. taking a seat across from Olivia. An awkward silence fell until Tom returned with 3 mugs, settling beside his wife with unmistakable solidarity. "So," Olivia began, "let's discuss this proposal of yours." Eleanor placed her portfolio on the table, but didn't open it immediately. "Before we start, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about control or influence. It's not a transaction with hidden terms." "Then what is it?" Tom asked. Eleanor searched for the right words. "It's the one thing I can offer that might actually make a difference in your lives. Not as a substitute for my presence or an attempt to buy forgiveness, but as a genuine resource I happen to possess in abundance." Olivia's expression softened slightly. "We've reviewed our situation extensively since Christmas Eve. The truth is, we're in deeper than we've been willing to admit, even to ourselves." Grace's hospitalization, Tom explained, came with complications the insurance deemed out of network. "We're facing nearly $50,000 in medical bills alone, plus the mortgage, student loans, credit cards we've used to cover emergencies." Olivia continued, "We've been treading water, but barely." Eleanor listened without interruption, recognizing how difficult this admission must be for them. "We've considered bankruptcy," Tom admitted, "but the impact on our credit, our future options for the children, ... That won't be necessary," Eleanor assured them, finally opening her portfolio. "I've developed several options, ranging from partial assistance to comprehensive support." She laid out 3 distinct proposals, each clearly outlined with professional precision. The first offered targeted relief for the medical debt only. The second added education funds for the children without touching the other financial obligations. The third was comprehensive complete debt clearance, education funds, and a home renovation allowance for the necessary repairs Grace had inadvertently revealed. "Each option comes with the same condition," Eleanor emphasized. "That you maintain complete autonomy over your lives and your children's upbringing. No interference, no expectations beyond what any family might reasonably have of one another." Tom studied the documents with the careful attention of an English teacher analyzing text. "And what do you get out of this, Eleanor?" The question wasn't accusatory, merely practical. "Peace of mind," she answered honestly. "And the knowledge that my resources are finally serving a purpose that matters." Olivia picked up the third proposal. "This is ... extensive. It's what I would do if there were no complications between us," Eleanor admitted. "If we were simply family without our history." "But we do have that history," Olivia pointed out. "Yes, which is why I've presented options rather than a single solution. The choice is entirely yours." Olivia and Tom exchanged a long look, communicating silently in the way of couples who know each other deeply. "We need to discuss this privately," Tom said finally. "Of course." Eleanor stood. "Take whatever time you need." "No," Olivia said unexpectedly. "Stay. I think we all need to talk this through together." Surprised, Eleanor resumed her seat. "Here's my concern," Olivia began. "Money has always been your solution to everything, Mother. When Dad died, you threw yourself into making more of it rather than dealing with our grief. When I needed guidance, you offered financial security instead of emotional support." "That's true," Eleanor acknowledged. "So how is this different? How do I know this isn't just another shortcut writing a check, instead of doing the harder work of rebuilding our relationship?" The question cut straight to the heart of Eleanor's own doubts. Was she once again substituting money for genuine connection? "I don't know that it is entirely different," she admitted after a moment. "Money is the language I learned to speak when everything else failed me. When your father died, I couldn't articulate my grief, so I built an empire instead. When you needed me emotionally, I offered financial stability, because it was the only form of care I knew how to express reliably." The honesty seemed to surprise Olivia, but Eleanor continued, "I believe I'm learning a new language now. One of Sunday dinners and school art shows and hospital vigils, of showing up, not just paying up." She gestured to the proposals. "This isn't instead of that work. It's alongside it." Tom leaned forward. "And if we accept the comprehensive option, would you see that as purchasing a place in our lives?" "No," Eleanor said firmly. "I know now that my place in your lives can't be bought. It must be earned through consistency, respect, and genuine care. Olivia studied her mother's face, searching for any hint of manipulation or agenda. "You've read all my letters," she said suddenly. "What?" Eleanor blinked at the non sequitur. "The ones I kept in that box under our bed," Olivia clarified, looking at Tom. "The ones from Dad." "I don't understand," Eleanor said. "After Dad died, I wrote him letters. Dozens of them. Things I wished I could tell him. Questions I wanted to ask. I kept them all these years. I didn't know that I never told you." Olivia's voice softened. "I used to write about how angry I was with you, how abandoned I felt. But I also wrote about your accomplishments. Every news article, every business triumph. I'd tell Dad, 'Mom did this amazing thing today,' but she still hasn't called." The revelation struck Eleanor deeply. While she had been writing birthday letters that never got sent, Olivia had been writing to Robert about her. "You followed my career obsessively," Olivia admitted. "I told myself it was to track what you considered more important than me, but truthfully, I was proud. Angry and hurt, but proud." "Olivia, .. Eleanor began, then faltered, overwhelmed. "I don't want to be angry anymore," Olivia continued. "I'm tired of it. And I don't want my children growing up in a household shadowed by financial stress, especially when there's a solution available." She picked up the comprehensive proposal. "If we accept this, it needs to be understood as a fresh start. Not erasing the past, but not letting it dictate the future either." "I want nothing more," Eleanor assured. "And," Tom added, "we need to maintain our independence as parents. Your financial assistance doesn't grant decision-making authority over the children's lives." "Absolutely not," Eleanor agreed immediately. "My role as grandmother, not director. The education funds," Olivia specified, "would be managed jointly. You have expertise we lack, but there are children. A reasonable compromise." Tom reached for Olivia's hand, squeezing it gently. "Are we doing this?" Olivia took a deep breath. "Yes. The comprehensive option, for the children's sake, and for our own peace of mind." Eleanor felt a weight lift from her shoulders, not because her money had been accepted, but because the acceptance came with clear boundaries and mutual respect. "There's one more thing," she said, pulling a final document from her portfolio. "The deed to your house. I'd like to transfer it completely into your names. No mortgage, no lien, no connection to me or Sinclair Enterprises. Your home, entirely yours." Olivia's composure finally broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she reached for the document with trembling fingers. "A home," she whispered, "truly ours. You've built something precious here," Eleanor said softly. "A family, a haven. The house should reflect that reality." Tom, normally stoic, cleared his throat against evident emotion. "Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you both," she replied, "for the second chance I never deserved but desperately needed." Olivia rose suddenly, circling the table to embrace her mother for the first time in more than a decade. Eleanor held her daughter close, feeling the years of distance dissolve in the simple human connection they'd both denied themselves for too long. "We're not fixed," Olivia murmured against her shoulder. "We still have work to do." "Yes," Eleanor agreed. "But we're finally facing in the same direction." 6 months later, the Peterson home had transformed into a showcase of wealth, but into a more secure version of itself. The roof no longer leaked. The ancient heating system had been replaced with an efficient modern one. The kitchen, while still modest, now had functioning appliances, and enough counter space for Tom's ambitious cooking projects. Eleanor parked her car, a sensible sedan that had replaced her luxury vehicle for family visits, and gathered the dessert she'd brought for Sunday dinner. In the 6 months since the financial agreement, she'd found her place in the family rhythm. Sunday dinners remained sacred. She attended school functions, sports games, and art shows. She learned each child's preferences, fears, and dreams. She listened more than she spoke, and gradually the title Grandma had ceased to sound foreign to her ears. As she approached the front door, it flew open to reveal Emma in paint-splattered jeans, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Perfect timing. I need your opinion on something." No greeting, no preamble, just immediate engagement. Eleanor had come to cherish Emma's directness. "Hello to you too," she said with a smile, following her granddaughter inside. The dining table had been transformed into an art studio, with sketches and color studies scattered across its surface. In the center lay architectural renderings of a building Eleanor recognized immediately. "The summer program project," she noted, setting down her dessert. "It's coming along beautifully." Emma had indeed attended the art program she'd coveted, though she'd insisted on applying for and winning a partial scholarship rather than accepting a fully funded place. "I revised the community center design," Emma explained, pointing to specific features: more natural light in the children's areas, and I reconfigured the roof to accommodate solar panels. Eleanor studied the drawings with genuine admiration. At 13, Emma showed remarkable spatial awareness and practical creativity. "Thoughtful improvements," she commented. "You've considered both aesthetics and functionality." Emma beamed at the professional validation. "The instructor says I have a promising future in architectural design." "I believe she's right." "If that's what you choose," Olivia added, entering from the kitchen. "No pressure either way." The gentle reminder that Emma's future remained her own to determine reflected the careful balance they'd all been maintaining. Support without expectation. Guidance without control. "Hey Mom," Eleanor greeted her daughter, the term still new enough to feel significant each time she used it. "Hi," Olivia replied warmly. "Tom's grilling in the backyard with Liam. Grace is helping, which means she's probably talking the poor man's ear off about her latest obsession, which is marine biology. As of Tuesday, apparently unicorns are for babies." Eleanor laughed. "Rapid evolution. That's 6-year-olds for you." Olivia gestured toward the kitchen. "Want to help me finish the salad?" The casual invitation to participate in meal preparation, once unthinkable for Eleanor Sinclair, CEO, had become a welcome part of their routine. In the kitchen, Eleanor washed and chopped vegetables while Olivia prepared dressing. "The foundation approved 15 new family grants yesterday," Olivia reported. 3 for long-term pediatric care, the rest for emergency medical interventions. "That's excellent progress." The partnership with Memorial Hospital is making a real difference. "Their administrative costs have decreased since we streamlined the assistance application process." Eleanor nodded, appreciating the professional update. In the months since its establishment, the Sinclair Family Foundation had grown into a respected organization, with Olivia serving as its most passionate advocate. Their shared work had created another dimension to their healing. Relationship, one where Olivia's expertise was valued and Eleanor's resources were thoughtfully deployed. "The board is considering expanding to include dental care," Olivia continued. "Preventative services for children from low-income households. A sound addition," Eleanor agreed. "I'll review the proposal this week." Their conversation was interrupted by Grace's entrance, her face alight with excitement. "Grandma, Dad says dinner's almost ready, and guess what? Jenny from next door is coming to visit tomorrow, and she's never met you. So I told her my grandma builds super tall buildings and helps sick kids get better." The breathless announcement made both women smile. "That's quite an introduction to live up to," Eleanor remarked. "It's true, isn't it?" Grace asked. "Yes," Olivia answered for her. "It is." The simple validation, Olivia acknowledging Eleanor's contributions, both professional and personal, more than any corporate award ever had. Dinner unfolded with the comfortable familiarity of established tradition. Tom's grilled chicken was perfectly done. Liam described his latest science experiment with enthusiastic hand gestures. Emma discussed her architectural inspirations. Grace delivered a monologue about whale migration that suggested her marine biology phase might have staying power. Eleanor participated in the conversation naturally, no longer feeling like a visitor in their midst. She had learned when to offer advice and when to simply listen, when to share her experiences and when others' perspectives were more valuable. After dessert, as dusk settled over the neighborhood, they gathered on the back porch. The summer evening was warm but pleasant, with fireflies beginning to flicker in the garden. Tom had expanded with his newfound free time since reducing his tutoring hours. "Mrs. Henderson from across the street asked about you today," Tom mentioned to Eleanor. "She wanted to know if you'd be at the neighborhood block party next weekend." She did. Eleanor was surprised. We've only met once. You made an impression, Olivia said. Apparently your donation to the community playground renovation fund was most generous. It was a worthy cause, Eleanor said simply. She referred to you as Olivia's mother, Tom added with a slight smile. Not that rich CEO or the Sinclair woman, just Olivia's mother. The distinction wasn't lost on any of them. In this community, Eleanor was being defined by her family connection rather than her wealth or corporate position. A fundamental shift in identity she found unexpectedly satisfying. Will you come? Grace asked, leaning against Eleanor's knee. To the block party. If I'm invited, yes. Your family, Liam said matter-of-factly. You don't need an invitation. The casual certainty of his statement touched Eleanor deeply. As the evening deepened, the children drifted inside one by one. Nima to her designs, Liam to a video game, Grace to prepare for bed. Left alone on the porch, Eleanor, Olivia, and Tom sat in comfortable silence, watching the last traces of sunset fade from the horizon. The board meeting ran long yesterday, Olivia commented. I noticed you left early. I had a prior commitment, Eleanor explained. Anything important? Emma's art program was having an open studio. I promised I'd attend. Tom and Olivia exchanged a look. What? Eleanor asked, catching the exchange. 6 months ago, you would have sent Ruth with a corporate gift basket, Olivia observed. Nothing would have pulled you from a board meeting. Priorities change, Eleanor said simply. Yes, Tom agreed. They do. The conversation lulled again, until Olivia spoke in a more hesitant tone. We've been talking about the fall, about your living situation. Eleanor tensed slightly. Oh, that penthouse is awfully far from here, Tom noted. The commute for Sunday, dinners, school events. I've managed, Eleanor said carefully. You have, Olivia acknowledged. But we wondered if you might consider something closer. The Harrison property down the street is for sale. It's a nice colonial, nothing extravagant, but Eleanor stared at her daughter, comprehension dawning slowly. Are you suggesting I move to your neighborhood? Only if you'd want to, Olivia said quickly. It's just a thought. The kids would love having you closer, Tom added. And practically speaking, it would make family activities easier to coordinate. Family activities. Such a simple phrase, yet it represented everything Eleanor had yearned for during her years of solitude. I'd have to maintain a residence downtown for business purposes, she said, thinking aloud. But a home here, near all of you, ... Like I said. Just a thought, Olivia repeated, but her eyes held cautious hope. It's a wonderful thought, Eleanor assured her. One I'll consider seriously. Grace appeared at the door in pajamas, interrupting the moment. Grandma, will you read me a story before you go? Of course, sweetheart. As Eleanor followed Grace inside, a neighbor walking his dog passed the house. Evening, Mrs. Peterson. He called to Olivia. Then, with equal familiarity, evening, Mrs. Sinclair. Good evening, Mr. Collins, Eleanor returned, realizing she'd become a recognized fixture in this community, not as a powerful CEO making a rare appearance, but as a grandmother who belonged. Later, after Grace had fallen asleep, mid-story and goodbyes had been exchanged, Eleanor drove home with the windows down, letting the summer night air fill the car. The Harrison house, she reflected, had good bones. Nothing like her sleek penthouse, but solid, welcoming. A place where grandchildren could visit freely, where family could gather without formality. A proper home, rather than a showcase for success. At a stoplight, her phone rang through the car's speaker system. Ruth, working late, as usual. Miss Sinclair, the Tokyo team is requesting an emergency conference call regarding the merger. 6 months ago, Eleanor would have immediately redirected to the office. Now, she made a different choice. Schedule it for tomorrow morning, Ruth. Standard protocol. But Miss Sinclair, they're quite insistent. Tomorrow will be soon enough, Eleanor said firmly. Family comes first. As she ended the call, Eleanor realized the phrase had come naturally to her lips, not as a new policy she was consciously implementing, but as a truth she had finally, after 15 years of isolation, come to believe. Family comes first, not an empire of glass and steel, not a portfolio of acquisitions, not even the foundation that bore her name. But the people who had given her a second chance she hadn't deserved, who had allowed her to become more than the sum of her mistakes. As Eleanor pulled into her building's parking garage, she made a decision. Tomorrow she would call about the Harrison house, a new home, close to the family she had nearly lost forever. A new foundation, built not on commerce or compensation, but on the harder, more rewarding work of genuine connection. The elevator doors opened to her penthouse, but empty. Soon, perhaps, she would have a different kind of home to return to. One where the neighbors knew her as Olivia's mother and Grace's grandmother rather than Eleanor Sinclair. CEO. She found she rather liked the sound of those titles. They were, after all, the ones that truly mattered. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe to our channel, and share your own experiences with forgiveness and second chances in the comments below.